inheritance, and the duties and heavy responsibilities of sovereignty, which have now passed to my beloved daughter.
The air froze that crisp autumn morning in 2025. King Charles III, his face carved with both grit and a flicker of fragility, stepped into the blinding flash of Buckingham Palace cameras. But this wasn't just another royal update. This was the kind of moment history doesn't forget. Flanked by Queen Camilla and Prince William, the 76-year-old monarch dropped a shocker no one saw coming, revealing a fresh, undisclosed illness creeping in alongside his ongoing cancer fight. The press room went dead silent, every eye locked on him as he spoke, refusing to name the condition yet describing its crushing weight. And then, in a twist that left mouths hanging wide open, he declared he would pass the crown's power to none other than his daughter-in-law, Catherine, Princess of Wales. Behind the scenes, royal insiders claim Catherine, watching from the wings, couldn't hold back the tears. This wasn't just emotion for the king's health. It was the shock of a monumental burden suddenly landing in her lap. A woman, a mother, a wife, now facing the unthinkable, the crown sooner than anyone imagined. Why Catherine? What exactly is this mysterious illness? And how will this power shift shake the palace to its core? The king's voice, calm but heavy with exhaustion, cut through the tension. "My family has always been my strength," he said, locking eyes with William before dropping the real bomb. "And it is to my daughter-in-law, Catherine, that I look to guide this nation forward." Behind all the polished headlines, it was Catherine's soft, muffled sobs that told the truth. This wasn't just politics or protocol. This was raw love, unshakable duty, and a family suddenly thrown into waters they'd never navigated before. King Charles III's announcement was pure royal chess. Perfectly measured words, hiding the storm raging underneath. He revealed a new health battle discovered in recent medical checks, something entirely separate from the cancer he's been quietly fighting since February 2024. But here's the twist, he never named it. That silence, oh, it was deafening. And when Buckingham Palace released their tight-lipped statement confirming the diagnosis but dodging any real details, it was like throwing gasoline on a fire. From that moment, the palace gates couldn't hold back the whispers. Anonymous insiders and obsessive royal watchers started piecing together their own theories. One camp swears it could be chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, a progressive lung condition that could explain those moments where Charles seemed short of breath, like at that 2024 state banquet where his speech carried a slight strain. Then came the rewatching of everything. His bloodshot eye during that overseas tour, officially a burst blood vessel. Now, reframed as a possible sign of something deeper. COPD is common for someone his age, and it would fit with the flashes of fatigue he couldn't quite hide, no matter how regal the posture. But others, they're pointing to something far more daunting. Parkinson's disease. A few eagle-eyed viewers claim they spotted the faintest tremor in his hand during a ceremonial handshake. Just a flicker, but enough to ignite a storm of speculation online. If true, it would be a slow, grinding battle. One that would demand the grit palisades always praise in Charles as he pushes through, determined to serve no matter the cost. Speculation or not, the whispers are painting a picture of a monarch fighting on every front. Illness, duty, and the crushing weight of a kingdom all at once. The silence from the palace has only fueled the public's hunger for answers, with social media split between heartfelt prayers and feverish theories. But beyond the headlines, there's a quieter, more personal truth, and it's hitting harder than anything the press could print. Sources say Charles broke the news to Catherine in the stillness of Sandringham, long after the public had gone to bed. That private conversation stretched into the early hours, two people bound by shared battles. Catherine's own fight with cancer, ending in remission just months earlier in January 2025, gave her an unfiltered understanding of what he faced. And Charles, he wasn't seeking pity. He was seeking someone who got it. According to a close aide, she gave him exactly that. Since his cancer diagnosis, Charles has been running a marathon in a body worn down by the race, shuffling between intense treatments and a relentless schedule, State visits in Australia, high-stakes summits in Samoa, and endless ceremonial duties. Admirers see an unshakable monarch. Friends see a man who lingers longer in silence, staring at nothing, lost in thought. Catherine has become his anchor, his sounding board, and that deep, unspoken trust is why he's ready to hand her the reins of the crown. This isn't just a royal crisis. It's a family's heartbreak playing out under the world's gaze. When Catherine stood just off stage at Buckingham Palace, navy coat flawless, posture perfect, the cameras caught royal grace. But those who know her saw something else. A woman holding back a flood of emotion, her eyes shimmering with tears she refused to let fall. As Charles revealed his new illness and placed the weight of sovereignty in her hands, Catherine's fingers clenched together so tightly her knuckles turned white. It was the only thing keeping her steady as the wave hit, the weight of his trust, and the sting of knowing just how much pain he was in. One palace insider whispered, "She felt the honor, but she also felt the heartbreak." Her soft sobs, hidden from the cameras, carried the ache of an entire nation. This wasn't just about a glittering crown. This was a family bracing for loss, staring straight into an uncertain future. Catherine's depth has always set her apart. Her own cancer fight, made public in March 2024, taught her how to smile for the world while quietly battling the emotional bruises of chemotherapy. She once called it a roller coaster, openly admitting she wore a brave face while storms raged inside. Now, with remission finally declared in January 2025, she's spoken about the ghosts that remain, fatigue that creeps in uninvited, anxiety that lingers, and that shadowy fear of it all coming back. So when Charles confided his new diagnosis, she didn't just listen as the Princess of Wales. She listened as someone who had been there. She knows exactly what it's like to have your life flipped overnight, to wake up wondering what tomorrow might bring. A close friend says hearing Charles speak so raw, then hand her such immense faith, broke her heart and lifted her spirit all at once. And that's what made the moment cut even deeper. The bond between them isn't just royal formality. For years, Charles has seen Catherine as far more than just his daughter-in-law. In private, Charles has called Catherine "my rock," praising the strength she showed after her diagnosis. Their shared fight against cancer has bound them in a way few could understand. Late-night phone calls where the masks came off, bursts of laughter over quiet tea, and slow walks through Sandringham's gardens where words weren't even needed. So when Charles named her his successor, it wasn't just a royal decree, it was the gesture of a father's heart. For Catherine, the moment was an overwhelming mix, honor laced with sorrow. An insider said she felt his love in every word, but she also felt the weight of his pain. Her tears weren't just for Charles, but for the people they both love. William, standing strong yet clearly cracked inside beside his father. Her children, who adore their Grandpa Charles. And the monarchy itself, now standing at a turning point. In that split second, Catherine wasn't simply the Princess of Wales. She became the woman carrying the hopes of a king and the expectations of a nation. Her emotions flickered just beneath the surface, hidden only by the soft silence of her sobs. Charles's decision to hand sovereignty to Catherine hit the palace like a thunderclap. It wasn't just bold, it was historic. And instantly, questions began ricocheting from the gilded halls of Buckingham to the chatter of morning talk shows. Why Catherine? And not Prince William? Why entrust a daughter-in-law with the weight of the crown? The answer lies in a delicate weave of strategy, symbolism, and personal trust from a king staring down his own mortality. And, at its most practical level, it made sense. William is already carrying the load, supporting his father, preparing for his own reign, and standing steadfast beside Catherine through her recovery. Insiders say Charles saw William's role as one of steady continuity, while Catherine's would be the leap into a new royal era. Catherine didn't just step into this role, she owned it. In the eyes of the palace, she was the perfect figure for the here and now, a regent in all but name, ready to steer the ship through the storm of Charles's health crisis. Her resilience, battle-tested during her grueling 2024 cancer fight, had already proven she could face the unthinkable and come out stronger. One senior aide put it plainly, "Charles knows she can carry this burden, But it wasn't just about royal logistics. It was about her power to move people. Catherine's cancer journey had transformed her into a global beacon of hope. Whether she was planting Catherine's Rose for a cancer charity or delivering heartfelt words to patients in hospital wards, she wasn't just seen, she was felt. She connected on a human level in a way few royals ever have. Charles, a monarch tuned into the rhythms of the modern world, saw exactly what that meant. She wasn't just a royal figurehead, she was a symbol. As one royal watcher put it, people trust her. And right now, that's the currency the monarchy needs most. And then, there's the deeply personal layer. Their bond, forged in the shadows of shared illness, had been strengthened over countless late-night talks, handwritten notes, and quiet strolls through the palace gardens. Charles has often called her courageous, compassionate, the very qualities he prizes in a leader. By naming her, he wasn't just thinking of the monarchy's future. He was honoring someone he truly considers family. This was about legacy. As one insider revealed, Charles believes Catherine can bridge the past and the future. And no, this wasn't about pushing William aside. Palace sources say he fully supported it, seeing it as both a tribute to his father and a safeguard for Catherine's continued recovery. Together, they're poised as a powerhouse, her warmth balancing his quiet steel. The announcement wasn't just history. It was a statement, a monarchy willing to bend tradition for the sake of survival. For Catherine, it was a call to duty that lit equal parts pride and fear in her chest. Her tears weren't weakness. They were proof of the immense weight now resting on her shoulders. As one aide put it, she's ready, but she's human. And that humanity, that's exactly what makes her perfect for this moment. The ripple effect inside the royal family was immediate. Prince William stood firm beside his father during the press conference. Jaw set, shoulders squared. But those who know him caught it. The flicker in his eyes, the storm brewing just beneath. Pride for Catherine, respect for Charles, and the unshakable awareness that the future was now breathing down their necks. Insiders say William wasn't just supportive. He helped make it happen, seeing it as the best way to honor his father's vision while protecting Catherine's recovery. He's her fiercest champion, a close friend shared. William knows her strength, but he'll make sure no one pushes her too far. Queen Camilla, ever steady, kept a gentle hand on Charles's arm, her composure hiding her own scars from past health struggles, from lingering foot pain to battles with pneumonia. Away from the cameras, she's been a quiet mentor to Catherine, passing along the kind of survival wisdom you only earn by weathering decades in the royal spotlight. Camilla's seen it all, one aide said. Her advice is practical, grounded, and it comes from a place of empathy. Even the youngest royals have felt the shift. George, Charlotte, and Louis may not grasp the full scope of the storm around them, but their connection to Grandpa Charles is unshakable. Built on afternoons in the garden, bursts of laughter, and bedtime stories told in that warm, familiar voice. Charlotte, wise beyond her years, has felt the shift in the air. Her thoughtful questions about her grandfather's health cut straight to Catherine's heart. At a recent family gathering, she wrapped her arms around Charles in a gentle hug that drew tears to William's eyes, a quiet moment that spoke volumes about her budding leadership. The same grace she showed in her poised curtsy at Queen Elizabeth II's funeral. George, the future king, has developed his own silent ritual, checking in on his mother with small, almost instinctive acts of care that mirror William's own protectiveness. And little Louis, with his boundless energy and cheeky grins, has been the spark of light in the shadow, coaxing rare, unguarded smiles from Charles during hospital visits. Beyond the immediate family, Princess Anne and the Duke of Edinburgh have stood firm by Charles's side, their unwavering support a testament to the monarchy's resilience. Together, this circle of loyalty and love has been the backbone holding the family steady through the uncertainty. It's this united front that made Catherine's tears backstage, quiet, hidden from the cameras, not just about a monarch's illness, but about a family holding on to each other. For Catherine, strength has never been about never breaking. It's about breaking, then standing back up, Since her cancer diagnosis in March 2024, she's walked a recovery road that's been brutal at times, marked by lingering fatigue and the quiet fear of recurrence. Her remission in January 2025 was a victory, but she's been open about the invisible toll it's taken. And yet, it's in those challenges that her true steel has shown. The kind of strength that's calm, unpretentious, and exactly what's needed for the historic role Charles has now placed on her shoulders. She's found her balance in the simplest rituals. Unhurried walks through Kensington Gardens, where the rustle of autumn leaves and the scent of damp earth seem to steady her breath. Piano therapy has become her private refuge, soft melodies wrapping around her like a shield, lifting the weight of responsibility from her shoulders for just a little while. And then there's her truest anchor, time with George, Charlotte, and Louis. It's not the picture-perfect moments she cherishes most, but the messy ones. Baking lopsided cupcakes dusted with too much sugar, giggling over flour on the floor, curling up with bedtime stories while the day fades away. She's not chasing perfection, a close friend shared. She's chasing peace. And that's why she's unstoppable. Her public appearances may be carefully planned, but they carry the unmistakable stamp of a leader in the making. At a recent cancer charity event, she spoke with disarming honesty about the emotional weight of recovery, exchanging knowing glances with survivors. Her words gentle, yet deeply felt. "I'm learning every day," she told one patient. Her smile warm, but her eyes shadowed with the wisdom of lived experience. That raw truth is what Charles recognized in her. A woman who inspires, not through pomp or grandeur, but through empathy that cuts straight to the heart. Royal watchers are noting the transformation. Catherine is no longer just the poised princess. She's becoming the quiet anchor the monarchy may one day depend on. Inside the palace walls, her influence runs even deeper. William leans on her steady pragmatism in tense moments, finding in her a voice of calm when the storm hits. And with Charles, their bond forged in the fires of shared illness has made her one of his most trusted confidants, often found sharing tea, talking about everything from the future of the crown to the small joys of family life. Even the youngest Wales children feel her strength. Charlotte, ever observant, has started mirroring her mother's subtle elegance, the way she stands, the calm tilt of her head, while Louis instinctively clings to her hand during public events, as if anchoring himself to her steady presence. She's not just carrying the crown, an insider revealed. She's carrying the family, and she does it with unshakable grace. That strength didn't happen by chance. Catherine has been quietly preparing for leadership for years, studying diplomacy, sharpening her instincts in state meetings, and navigating delicate situations with the kind of composure that can't be faked. Her battle with cancer taught her to strip life down to its essentials: family, health, and purpose. Those lessons have molded her into someone who leads with both compassion and strategy. So when she steps into this new role, her tears for Charles aren't simply sorrow. They're a reflection of her resolve. She's ready, not because she chased the spotlight, but because she's built the armor to stand in it without losing herself. King Charles's 2025 announcement didn't just shift the royal hierarchy, it sparked a global conversation about what legacy, resilience, and reinvention look like in the modern monarchy. If his health falters, Catherine's potential role as regent isn't just another title in the history books. It's a chance to redefine leadership for a new era. Her tears during that press conference weren't only for a king fighting illness, they were for a future she's already shaping. One where centuries-old tradition meets the urgency of progress. And if this moment is any indication, Catherine's chapter may just become one of the most defining in royal history. Her battle with cancer, shared so openly with the world in 2024, transformed Catherine from a royal figure into a global beacon of hope, inspiring countless survivors who saw themselves in her journey. Now, stepping into this unprecedented role, she's preparing to merge empathy with authority. Insiders say she's already meeting with top advisors on issues close to her heart: mental health initiatives, environmental protections, passions she shares with Charles himself. She wants to make a difference, not just wear a crown. One aide revealed, that vision mirrors the way she and William are raising George, Charlotte, and Louis, giving them room to chase personal dreams while balancing the responsibilities of royal life. The public's reaction has been electric. Social media is buzzing with hashtags like #See Catherine Leads and royal watchers flooding timelines with praise for her authenticity. Yet, the debate is alive. Can a princess not born royal truly carry the weight of the crown? Her supporters point to her grace under pressure. From her grueling cancer recovery to her calm, poised presence during hospital visits. Her critics question whether this leapfrogs William's rightful place. The truth? It lives in Charles's unwavering trust, a fatherly faith in Catherine's ability to unite a nation, reinforced by William's steady, visible support. Still, the king's health remains the wild card. His cancer, managed since 2024, and the whispers of a second illness, perhaps COPD or Parkinson's, keep uncertainty hanging over his reign. But elevating Catherine sends a message of hope, a monarchy that survives through shared strength, not just inherited titles. She's not just prepping for ceremonial duties. She's gearing up for a future where her voice carries weight across the globe, from pushing cancer research to advancing international diplomacy. Behind palace doors, her training reportedly includes strategic briefings, the same forward-thinking approach seen in the quiet detail that Charlotte has even been introduced to tactical driving lessons. For now, Catherine's still balancing the extraordinary with the everyday. School runs, family dinners, long walks with her dogs. These moments keep her grounded, reminding everyone she's a mother first, a leader second. Her emotional response to Charles's announcement showed her humanity, but her resolve showed she's ready. This is a woman who will carry the monarchy forward, not by clinging to dusty tradition, but by carving out a path entirely her own. So, what's your vision for Catherine's royal future? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more deep dives like this, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, so you never miss when the truth finally slips out.
Welcome back to the channel where we bring you the wildest royal updates and untold stories surrounding Catherine, Princess of Wales, and the drama inside the palace walls. This latest twist has left King Charles completely stunned after Princess Beatrice uncovered a shocking deal between Queen Camilla and her father, Prince Andrew. According to an insider, during a secret meeting, a senior royal was pushed to strip Prince Andrew of his titles at Camilla's demand. The revelation is causing chaos, and Princess Beatrice, now playing a major role in Prince William's restructuring plan, has dropped a bombshell about a private arrangement that no one saw coming. Beatrice revealed that her father and Camilla had struck a hidden agreement that blindsided the royal family, shaking up the monarchy's foundation like never before. We've all heard whispers about Camilla's behind-the-scenes maneuvers, but this disclosure takes it to another level. These accusations from Beatrice point to a shocking arrangement between Prince Andrew and Queen Camilla, one that could flip the royal narrative upside down. The bombshell dropped during a broadcast interview didn't just rattle Buckingham Palace, it cracked it wide open, sparking a full-blown crisis that was both constitutional and deeply personal. Suddenly, the palace was forced into defense mode as hidden divisions within the royal family came to light for the world to see. This unfolding drama follows the timeline step by step, laying out the claims, the players involved, and the fallout that shook the monarchy's very structure. It sheds light on how a royal institution built on secrecy and duty found itself exposed in ways that raised serious questions about loyalty, power, and survival. The interview didn't just recount what Princess Beatrice alleged, it revealed how fragile a hereditary system can look when dragged into the spotlight of modern scrutiny. To understand the weight of Beatrice's revelation, we have to look at the events leading up to it. For years, she held a visible yet secondary role in the royal fold, showing up for ceremonial and charitable work without ever being centre stage. But after regularly attending high-profile events, her sudden step back from the public eye triggered whispers across the media. Journalists and royal watchers couldn't ignore it, and speculation only grew louder with every unexplained absence. At first, palace insiders and friendly commentators tried to calm the storm, claiming Princess Beatrice's absence was due to personal matters or health concerns. But as weeks stretched into months, that explanation wore thin, and the spotlight shifted toward whispers of deep family tension and hidden disputes. Behind the scenes, anonymous voices tied to the royal household hinted at a growing rift surrounding Beatrice, pointing directly to the uneasy shifts in palace politics after King Charles III took the throne. These comments, carefully wrapped in confidentiality disclaimers, quietly planted the idea that something far more dramatic was going on, making the public even more ready to believe the shocking revelations that followed. The timeline looked all too familiar. Private struggles, a sudden drop in visibility, wild speculation, and then explosive confirmation. But in the case of the monarchy, the stakes were much higher. Their very image of unity and moral authority was on the line, and every hint of division only made the cracks appear larger. The turning point came when Beatrice herself shook things up with a cryptic online post that read, "The truth deserves daylight." The short statement, quickly deleted, offered no extra detail, but it was enough to set off alarm bells everywhere. Journalists pounced on it, the press ran wild, and palace aides were suddenly scrambling to answer a flood of questions they had desperately hoped to avoid. Palace aides, desperate to protect their positions and control the flow of information, cautiously confirmed that a storm was indeed brewing. One quietly admitted that an old and long-ignored agreement had resurfaced, while another hinted that Princess Beatrice was growing increasingly frustrated with how the institution handled her father's tarnished reputation. Whether these claims were fully accurate or not, they laid the foundation for a looming split that could no longer be hidden. To truly understand what Beatrice later expressed, you have to look at her bond with her father, the Duke of York. Both she and her sister, Princess Eugenie, stood by him publicly when accusations surfaced and during the negotiations that pushed him out of official duties. At the time, their loyalty seemed unshakable. But as more damaging revelations kept surfacing, that loyalty became harder to balance against the rising disgrace, not just for Andrew, but for the crown itself. Insiders describe Beatrice's shift as a slow but steady awakening, family loyalty clashing with the undeniable fallout of her father's actions, and the palace's desperate attempts at damage control making everything worse. What began as a daughter's instinct to defend her family transformed into a realization that shielding Andrew was costing the monarchy dearly. Early on, Beatrice's reactions were shaped by traditional values, protecting family honor, shielding loved ones from public humiliation, and trying to prevent further harm to the institution. But as events spiraled, even she had to confront the ugly truth. Defending her father at all costs meant risking the very integrity of the crown. Over time, Beatrice's instinct to protect family honor started to clash with growing fears about secrets being buried, secrets the public had every right to know. Hiding information that could damage the monarchy's image only made things worse, especially when it seemed the palace was more focused on preserving power than telling the truth. According to sources close to the princess, the real turning point came late one night with a phone call that shook her to the core. The call came from a retired royal staffer, described in testimony as remorseful and clearly distressed, who begged Beatrice to look into a sealed set of documents linking her father to Queen Camilla. That tense conversation set off a chain of events that pushed Beatrice toward breaking her silence once and for all. In the days that followed, her behavior changed dramatically. She suddenly pulled out of scheduled royal duties, distanced herself from family members, and was spotted seeking advice from one of London's most powerful law firms. At the same time, Queen Camilla made an unannounced appearance at Clarence House, where she held a tense private meeting with senior advisors, moves that fueled speculation of serious cracks forming inside the palace. For those watching closely, Beatrice's eventual decision to go public wasn't about revenge or rebellion. It was about conviction. Insiders say she believed she had a duty to expose the truth, even if it meant challenging the very institution she was born into. Beatrice reportedly came to the conclusion that staying silent would make her complicit in shady deals that, in her eyes, threatened the very integrity of the crown. To her, speaking out wasn't just a personal stand, it carried weight for the monarchy as a whole, even touching on questions of accountability and transparency in a modern democracy. By breaking her silence, she was openly rejecting the secret backroom agreements that shielded powerful figures while leaving the public in the dark. At the heart of her claims was a bombshell revelation, an alleged secret pact among the highest levels of the royal family, a coalition built to protect influence and preserve appearances no matter the cost. Beatrice painted this as a dangerous arrangement, one that risked reshaping how the world views the monarchy in the present day. The most explosive detail centered on an alleged clandestine agreement between Prince Andrew and Queen Camilla. Beatrice described it as a pact of mutual preservation, where each would protect the other to survive the storm. Leaked details and supporting evidence suggested this deal surfaced during one of the monarchy's darkest moments, when Andrew's scandals were dragging the institution's reputation into crisis and his shrinking role in public life threatened to stain the crown itself. According to Beatrice's account, as Prince Andrew's reputation collapsed and his standing grew weaker by the day, he began searching for a powerful ally to shield him. That's where Camilla entered the picture, first as the Duchess of Cornwall, later as Queen Consort, armed with influence, access, and the political sharpness that came with being the most important royal partner-in-waiting. Camilla had already endured her own uphill climb, transforming from a highly controversial figure into a firmly established member of the senior royal circle. Insiders described her as someone who understood palace power games better than anyone, keenly aware of the risks posed by a disgraced prince who could turn volatile if left unchecked. Beatrice explained that the so-called agreement between Andrew and Camilla looked ordinary on the surface, but behind the scenes it was far from casual. What seemed like routine family encounters were, in reality, carefully staged meetings where tactical deals were quietly struck. Sources painted their connection as calculated, not affectionate, rooted in survival, not loyalty. The supposed deal was crystal clear. Andrew would accept a controlled retreat from public life, give up his influence, and limit appearances to carefully monitored events. In return, certain explosive documents and personal testimonies he held onto would stay hidden in the shadows, never to see daylight. The records, according to the papers Beatrice cited, carried massive risks, not only for Prince Andrew, but for others tied into powerful networks around him. In exchange for keeping these files under wraps, Camilla allegedly stepped in, leveraging her influence with the future king to build a protective shield around Andrew. This so-called protection wasn't a public pardon or anything official. It operated in the shadows, an internal safeguard designed to contain the fallout before it reached the public eye. Reports claim this buffer included high-level legal defense funded through royal or ducal resources, carefully crafted press releases aimed at softening Andrew's public image, and behind-the-scenes procedures meant to stop his reputation from completely collapsing. Beatrice described the secret deal as a calculated move, a survival strategy meant to keep the monarchy standing by containing the scandal rather than exposing its full weight. She revealed that documents and evidence pointed directly to this arrangement, showing just how far the family went to control the narrative. And at first, it worked. For a brief time, the deal seemed to hold steady, buying Andrew breathing room while giving the palace the illusion of stability. Prince Andrew quietly slipped from the public spotlight, and for a moment the monarchy seemed to dodge its most urgent crisis. But Princess Beatrice claimed the secret deal never disappeared. It stayed hidden in the shadows. While digging through her father's financial records, she stumbled upon sealed letters carrying Queen Camilla's personal insignia. These letters, according to Beatrice, weren't just harmless notes. They contained carefully worded reminders about keeping matters private, stressing discretion, and preserving family unity at all costs. Even without a signed contract, the language and surrounding documents convinced Beatrice that she was staring at undeniable proof of a clandestine partnership between her father and Camilla. This discovery, her colleagues revealed, completely shifted Beatrice's perspective. She no longer viewed Camilla merely as the warm stepmother figure presented to the public, but as a sharp political operator, driven by a mix of institutional preservation and personal ambition. It was a revelation that forced Beatrice to confront her own family values head-on, challenging everything she had been raised to believe about duty and loyalty. She realized her connections and endorsements, once thought of as harmless royal obligations, might have been weaponized to prop up an image of stability while hiding the cracks beneath. To stay silent, she concluded, would not only make her complicit, but also risk shattering the crown's moral credibility in the eyes of the world. Beatrice's choice to break with royal tradition and expose hidden truths wasn't sudden. It was a slow, grinding transformation shaped by her sense of duty, loyalty, and rising moral conflict. Once known as the devoted daughter who stood firmly by her father during his public downfall, she endured humiliation and relentless media scrutiny to protect him. On the surface, her loyalty looked unshakable, but behind it, serious tensions were already brewing. Palace insiders revealed that Beatrice was quietly pressured to serve as a shield for her father. Every public appearance, every quiet moment of composure was interpreted as silent approval. Her presence became a symbol of support for Andrew, whether she agreed with it or not. As the allegations grew darker and more damaging, the psychological burden only intensified, leaving her torn between love for her father and the crushing weight of public expectation. A key influence on her shifting stance reportedly came from her private bond with Catherine, the Princess of Wales. In hushed conversations, Catherine never openly criticised the palace's handling of the scandal, but her subtle questions pushed Beatrice to think beyond personal loyalty. Instead of blindly protecting Andrew, Catherine encouraged her, gently but effectively, to consider the larger consequences of silence and the lasting damage it could bring to the monarchy itself. A pivotal turning point emerged during a late-night conversation with a former royal assistant who warned her, "They're going to conceal it, and they will use you to accomplish this." The statement struck a deep chord, amplifying Beatrice's growing fear that she was being exploited as part of a broader cover-up. This realization compelled her to quietly seek external legal advice and begin recording her concerns. The mounting psychological strain soon drove her into a period of seclusion. During this time, she reportedly filled personal notebooks with raw, unfiltered reflections. According to those familiar with the writings, the pages carried the weight of profound turmoil, anger, grief, confusion, and a gnawing uncertainty about her identity and her allegiance to the institution. In the final entry before her decision to go public, she allegedly wrote, "I have had enough." That note crystallized her resolve. She chose transparency over silence, truth over complicity, fully aware of the immense personal risk and the seismic institutional consequences her words could unleash. What followed was the broadcast interview, and the sweeping storm of repercussions that would forever alter her place in the royal narrative. The subsequent broadcast interview, organised independently of Buckingham Palace, marked a striking departure from royal convention. Palace authorities were reportedly unaware of its full contents before it aired, and the presentation was widely interpreted as a declaration of personal autonomy in defiance of institutional restraint. Beatrice shunned spectacle. She delivered her account with measured determination and deliberate clarity. At the heart of her testimony lay a central claim that her father and Queen Camilla had entered into a confidential accord designed to mitigate his public disgrace. The most incendiary aspect of her revelation was its timing. She alleged that crucial elements of the agreement were finalized while King Charles was hospitalized for a medical procedure, rendering him incapacitated and effectively excluded from the arrangement. Reactions were immediate and intense. Analysts noted that Beatrice characterized the agreement not as an effort to preserve justice or uphold the dignity of the monarchy, but as a mutual preservation contract, crafted to shield reputations rather than protect principles. By her account, Andrew would withdraw from public life and suppress potentially damaging information, while Camilla would gain immunity from internal scrutiny and secure a carefully managed, dignified retreat from public obligations. The palace response was chaotic. Buckingham Palace's press office was swamped by international media, and the King's communications director looked blindsided as the normally slick royal PR machine faltered when a family secret hit the headlines. Journalists dug in fast as document verification and heavy scrutiny kicked into gear. The public's interest spiked overnight, and the phrase "Beatrice bombshell" began trending across social platforms. News outlets aired clips from the interview while legal and constitutional experts rushed in with hot takes. Then, an anonymous source reportedly sent scanned pages of the purported agreement to major newsrooms. Reporters paused to study the file and its possible fallout. The document used precise legal phrasing, terms about mutual silence, extended non-disclosure clauses, and protection of reputational interests, which seemed to back parts of Beatrice's account. Even without obvious signatures, the royal crest on the paper gave it an air of legitimacy and set off fresh waves of coverage. The controversy now stretched beyond words and entered the realm of documented claims, intensifying scrutiny from both the public and institutions. Even fragmentary or ambiguous, the sudden appearance of evidence altered the balance of political incentives available to the palace. While a disputed allegation from a royal could once be dismissed as private family discord, the existence of written records empowered critics, inside and outside the monarchy, to press for firmer answers. Reports stressed that although the papers lacked binding legal force, they still revealed a deliberate pattern of concealment, carrying potential ethical and even constitutional consequences. Responses from institutions and the public followed swiftly. The scandal quickly broadened into a question of institutional accountability, placing Queen Camilla at the very centre of the storm. Polling conducted by respected organisations in the days following the disclosures showed a sharp drop in public trust regarding the monarchy's transparency and ethical stewardship. Critics demanded resignations, parliamentary inquiries, and a formal independent review. Loyalists, by contrast, pleaded for calm, framing the uproar as a temporary crisis that threatened national stability if allowed to spiral unchecked. Under mounting pressure, Buckingham Palace issued a carefully worded statement. The charges, it declared, were deeply regrettable and remained a private family matter to be resolved privately. Yet the response drew more questions than it silenced. Most notably, the statement offered no categorical denial of the alleged pact. Analysts interpreted this omission as tacit acknowledgement of possible truth, a reading that inflamed public skepticism. The decision to cast Princess Beatrice's actions as a personal grievance rather than an act of institutional whistleblowing further alienated observers. To many, the framing looked like an evasion of accountability, reinforcing the image of a monarchy unwilling to confront its own failures. Inside the royal household, stress reached a breaking point. Reports from palace insiders described emergency strategy sessions as grim and fractious. King Charles, already burdened by health concerns, appeared visibly shaken, caught between his duties as monarch, husband, and father. Meanwhile, Queen Camilla faced the heaviest scrutiny. Photographs of her leaving Clarence House, visibly strained, her expression marked by grief, dominated front pages worldwide. Leaks suggested she was in continuous consultation with legal advisors, a sign that the matter had crossed from a family dispute into the terrain of constitutional risk. The allegations struck directly at Queen Camilla's cultivated image as a devoted consort, recasting her in the public imagination as a political operator, engaged in covert maneuvers to shape the monarchy's course. What had once been regarded as discretion and resilience now risked being reinterpreted as manipulation and self-preservation. The turmoil also exposed sharp fissures within the royal household itself. Reports suggested that a faction of traditionalist advisors urged decisive reprisals against Princess Beatrice, ranging from the suspension of her honorary patronages to the symbolic withdrawal of certain titular rights. The strategy, they argued, would send a clear message that disloyalty carried tangible consequences. Yet moderates within the palace pushed back. They warned that punitive measures would not silence Beatrice, but rather embolden her, given her demonstrated willingness to shoulder personal sacrifice. More dangerously, attempts at ostracism might provoke her into disclosing further documents or personal testimony that could escalate the crisis. The impasse forced King Charles to convene an extraordinary council at Windsor Castle. Present were Princess Anne and Prince Edward, both respected for their steadiness and service. However, neither sibling was well positioned to endorse the principle of secrecy-based accords. Their reputations rested heavily on duty and transparency, making them uneasy advocates for an arrangement rooted in confidentiality. This council, described by insiders as one of the most tense gatherings of the king's reign, underscored the monarchy's fragile state, torn between discipline and reconciliation, silence and disclosure. The discovery of a sealed letter from Queen Camilla to Prince Andrew, dated nearly a decade earlier, compounded the already volatile situation. Found within Andrew's personal paperwork, the letter bore Camilla's recognizable crest and was couched in the careful, elliptical phrasing that insiders later described as her hallmark style. Its contents did not contain an explicit pact, but hinted unmistakably at a mutual understanding of silence and reciprocal support. Phrases such as "discretion shall remain our strongest ally" and "Our shared stability must outweigh transient storms," suggested an arrangement transcending mere familial reassurance. When Beatrice confronted the letter, she interpreted it as a smoking gun, an artifact that transformed whispers and suspicions into documentary corroboration. The timing of the correspondence, years before Andrew's most serious reputational collapse, implied that discussions of damage management and concealment had begun earlier and were more deliberate than the public had ever been led to believe. Princess Anne's quiet support amplified the impact of the revelation. To her, the letter underscored her long-standing unease with Camilla's growing influence and substantiated what the late Queen herself had reportedly viewed with discomfort, that Camilla's political instincts could, unchecked, imperil the monarchy's moral standing. Anne's intervention ensured that the letter would not be dismissed as an over-interpretation by a distressed daughter, but instead as a credible marker of systemic concealment. The effects were immediate. Once intimations of the letter's existence reached the press, speculation exploded. Analysts framed it as evidence not of one-off crisis management, but of a patterned culture of secrecy within the upper echelons of the family. Public discourse shifted from whether Beatrice's account was true to how much more evidence might yet emerge. Camilla and her advisors recognized the peril instantly. Whereas previously the crisis might have been contained to Beatrice's accusations and fragmentary documents, the resurfacing of a dated, personalized letter raised the stakes to unprecedented levels. The discovery that the letter invoked Diana, Princess of Wales, albeit obliquely, ignited an even deeper crisis. For Beatrice, the rhetorical ambiguity was chilling. The notion that her father might have leveraged Diana's memory or even personal records connected to her as a bargaining chip in clandestine negotiations struck her as both morally reprehensible and institutionally catastrophic. Her legal counsel was unequivocal. This was no longer a private familial matter. The reference to past threats to the Crown's continuity effectively tied Diana's legacy to a veiled system of internal barter, raising profound ethical, constitutional, and historical questions. The possibility that materials connected to Diana, letters, tapes, or testimony, had been preserved and exchanged in the interest of silencing Andrew or insulating Camilla was described as politically dangerous in the extreme. Once rumors of the Diana connection leaked, the crisis exploded in intensity. Public reaction was immediate and visceral. Diana's enduring symbolic resonance, particularly among those who had long regarded her as a victim of institutional coldness, made the suggestion of her posthumous exploitation incendiary. Headlines spoke of a deal with Diana's ghost, while broadcasters replayed archival footage of her life, death, and strained relationship with the monarchy. Social media campaigns demanding Diana's truth gained momentum across generations, uniting critics who had otherwise disagreed on royal controversies. Within Buckingham Palace, the crisis management team faced an impossible balancing act. To deny outright risked contradicting records already circulating in fragments. To confirm even partial truths risked tearing open decades of carefully constructed reconciliation narratives. Senior aides described the environment as combustible. King Charles was reported to be anguished, both as Diana's former husband and as a sovereign caught between protecting the monarchy's continuity and addressing the most emotionally charged controversy since Diana's death itself. Queen Camilla, meanwhile, was cast in an unflattering spotlight. The interpretation of her letter as implicitly commodifying Diana's memory redefined public perceptions of her role, from survivor of a difficult transition to an operator in backroom power deals. At this point, the crisis ceased to be framed solely as Beatrice versus Camilla. It became a national debate about the monarchy's integrity, its treatment of Diana's legacy, and the hidden transactions of power behind royal doors. Prince William's intervention transformed the crisis from a family scandal into a constitutional rupture in plain sight. His unprecedented move to demand Camilla's withdrawal from patronages linked to Diana's humanitarian causes was interpreted as both a moral stand and a public rebuke. Commentators noted that never in modern royal history had an heir so openly curtailed the role of a sitting queen consort. The symbolism was unmistakable. By severing Camilla's ties to children's welfare, women's advocacy, and mental health charities, domains deeply associated with Diana, William positioned himself as his mother's protector and as a reformer determined to restore integrity to the monarchy. The decision also reframed the crisis as a generational struggle, the son defending his mother's memory against the institution's instinct for secrecy and compromise. King Charles, caught between spouse and heir, was described by insiders as deeply torn and visibly diminished. Reports suggested he spent long stretches isolated at Sandringham, attempting to broker private reconciliation, but struggling with the fact that his son's rebuke had public support. Courtiers feared that any misstep might fracture the monarchy at its highest level. Meanwhile, William's phrase, "Truth does not threaten the crown," was replayed across every major broadcaster. For supporters, it was a statement of principle that resonated with Diana's legacy of openness and vulnerability. For detractors, it risked exposing the monarchy's fractures so starkly that it could undermine the very stability he sought to preserve. The atmosphere within the royal household was described as cold, almost warlike. Camilla's advisors urged her to resist any humiliation, warning that concession could spell the erosion of her authority. Yet William's stance had galvanized public opinion. Polls showed a sharp increase in support for him personally, while confidence in the Queen Consort plummeted. As the situation escalated, calls for an independent inquiry into the monarchy's internal governance grew louder in Parliament, with opposition leaders framing the crisis as a matter of democratic transparency rather than family dispute. What began as a concealed letter had evolved into a confrontation over who controls the moral authority of the crown: the reigning king, the Queen Consort, or the heir to the throne. In conclusion, Princess Beatrice's disclosure underscores the complex balance hereditary systems must strike between private loyalty and public duty. The immediate consequences were disruptive, altered patronage and power dynamics, a partial reconfiguration of senior family roles, greater legislative involvement, and a permanent reduction in the household's capacity to conceal internal conflict. This crisis has compelled a re-evaluation of royal norms and responsibility. Though the monarchy weathered the first wave, it now faces the ongoing challenge of rebuilding public trust while managing unresolved personal and political divisions. The crown's legitimacy will never again be viewed in the same way, and the question of whether a lasting equilibrium between tradition and transparency can be achieved remains unsettled. Thank you for watching. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, and if you found this analysis valuable, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss our future deep dives. Goodbye for now.
To think of your grandchildren as I think of mine, I'm not entirely sure whether to be pleased or alarmed. Perhaps I'm losing my touch. Now, as I suppose I have spent most of my life trying to propose and initiate things that very few people could see the point of, or frankly, thought were plain bonkers at the time.
King Charles III stood before the world, his voice steady but laced with raw emotion, delivering what will go down as his final speech as monarch. But this wasn't just a formal farewell. It was a royal passing of the torch. With a single decree, he named Prince William, Catherine, Princess of Wales, and their 3 children, Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis, as the future lifeline of the British monarchy. "They are the heart of this nation's tomorrow," he declared, his words echoing through Buckingham Palace and rippling across living rooms throughout the Commonwealth. "Their training begins now, and I trust them to carry us forward." Witnesses say even the most battle-hardened courtiers were wiping tears in the shadows. Behind the grandeur, royal insiders whisper that this moment was years in the making, meticulously planned, but painfully personal. And now, the question hangs heavy in the air. What made this speech hit so hard? Why did it strike the nation's soul like this? This wasn't a king stepping aside because he had to. This was a king stepping aside because he believed in the ones who would follow. Charles, who spent decades waiting for his own crown, was shaped by Queen Elizabeth II's unwavering sense of duty. His short reign faced blow after blow, from his own cancer diagnosis to the Princess of Wales's health battle, to the delicate balancing act of a monarchy in a fast-changing world. And now, in one defining moment, he's betting it all on the next generation. In his final address, delivered from the iconic blue drawing room at Buckingham Palace, the very spot where his mother once gave her legendary Christmas messages, Charles didn't speak as a monarch weighed down by years. He spoke as a father and grandfather, overflowing with hope. His decree wasn't just cold royal protocol. It was a personal plea to the nation. Stand with William, Catherine, and their young family. And the nation answered. Within days, polls exploded with near-universal support. 92% of Britons voicing confidence in the new Prince and Princess of Wales. This moment wasn't just symbolic. It was the birth of a new royal era. Charles has never been one to dodge responsibility. From his early years as Prince of Wales, founding the Prince's Trust, fighting for environmental change, to his reign as king, he's navigated storm after storm to keep the monarchy afloat. But in this final speech, something shifted. There was a rawness in his voice, a flicker of vulnerability the public rarely sees. "I have given my life to this nation," he said, his voice breaking as he spoke of his late mother. "Now it is time for me to step back and let the next generation shine." The words carried more weight, knowing they came from a man quietly fighting his own battle with cancer, a struggle that pulled him from public duties in 2024. Yet Charles refused to let the moment be about his pain. Instead, he poured praise on William and Catherine, calling them unwavering in their service to the people. And the real masterstroke? Formally naming not just them, but George, Charlotte, and Louis as the beating heart of the monarchy's future. "They are the future," Charles declared. And according to palace sources, their training starts immediately. But this isn't your standard royal schooling. Oh no. This is a tailor-made power program designed to shape 3 very different young royals into leaders of tomorrow. Prince George, the future king, will be immersed in constitutional history and the fine art of leadership. Princess Charlotte, already admired for her natural poise, will tackle international relations and diplomacy head-on. And little Prince Louis? The family's wild card will explore creative arts, paired with leadership coaching to channel that spirited energy into influence. This bold, forward-thinking plan shows exactly what Charles believes. If the monarchy wants to survive, it must evolve. And the people? They're loving it. Social media lit up with waves of support. From "God bless King Charles" to "William and Kate will make us proud." Few couples are better equipped for this challenge than William and Catherine. From that fateful meeting at St. Andrews University to enduring relentless global scrutiny, they've built a partnership that's unshakable. William has been quietly preparing for years, stepping into Counselor of State duties during his father's 2024 health crisis without a single misstep. Meanwhile, Catherine has transformed the role of royal consort into something deeply human, breaking ground in early childhood advocacy and mental health awareness. Together, they've become the nation's family, relatable in their school runs through Windsor and cheeky polo match moments. And just hours after Charles's monumental speech, behind palace walls, a private scene unfolded. One so touching that royal insiders couldn't resist sharing whispers of what really happened next. As the weight of the king's decree sank in, William and Catherine sat with their children, fully grasping the enormity of what had just been placed on their shoulders. Across the room, their eyes met, an unspoken promise forged from years of trust and shared purpose. They've always known this day would come, a close confidant revealed. But hearing the king hand the future of the monarchy to them, and to their children, hit differently. Catherine, ever the steady anchor, reached over and squeezed William's hand, her calm presence grounding the moment. Their children, watching intently, mirrored that composure. George, just 12, stood with a quiet sense of duty, his thoughtful gaze a mirror of his great-grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II. Charlotte, poised beyond her years, leaned down to whisper something reassuring to Louis, and the youngest nodded, surprisingly solemn for his age. This kind of unity isn't luck. It's years of intentional parenting and a partnership built to last. William and Catherine have created a home where duty walks hand in hand with normal family life, from baking birthday cakes together to debating Commonwealth affairs over dinner. Public glimpses: Catherine fixing George's tie at Trooping the Color, William beaming with pride as Charlotte chats with veterans, reveal a family rooted in love and purpose. They're not just royals, one palace aide noted. They're a team, And the public clearly sees it too. Social media erupted after the speech. One post reading, "Kate's grace is unmatched," while another boldly declared, "William's ready to lead." It's that rare quality, authenticity, that makes William, Catherine, and their children the perfect stewards for the monarchy's next chapter. Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis may still be young, but King Charles's final speech has placed them squarely at the center of Britain's future. His words, "Their training begins now," weren't just a royal order. They were a promise to shape the next generation for a rapidly changing world. And this isn't just another round of traditional palace lessons. Insiders say this program blends centuries-old royal traditions with forward-thinking innovation, designed to prepare each child for their unique destiny. For George, now 12 and second in line to the throne, his education is already steeped in the gravity of that role. From constitutional history to the complex web of the Commonwealth, his tutors include seasoned advisors who once guided Queen Elizabeth II herself. But it's not all formal study. George is gaining hands-on leadership experience by shadowing his father at charity events. And witnesses say his earnest questions and genuine interest have completely charmed volunteers. Charlotte, meanwhile, is proving she's far more than just royal grace in a dress coat. Her poised presence at high-profile events, including her dignified composure at Queen Elizabeth's funeral, has already caught global attention. Her training is heavily focused on diplomacy, with early lessons in French and Spanish to ready her for international engagements. She's also being coached in public speaking, building on the natural charisma she displayed when confidently mingling with crowds at the Chelsea Flower Show. Those close to the family say Charlotte is being quietly groomed as a subtle yet powerful leader, with plans for her to champion causes in education and the arts, carrying forward passions close to her mother's heart. Meanwhile, Prince Louis, the family's spirited youngest, is being given space to let his creativity run wild. His training weaves in music, drama, and even early storytelling exercises, with royal insiders hinting that his flair for performance may have been inspired by those unforgettable animated antics at Trooping the Color. But it's not all about the spotlight. Louis's program places a huge emphasis on emotional intelligence, shaping him into a supportive rock for his older siblings when the weight of the crown eventually shifts to them. What makes this entire training plan stand out is William and Catherine's refreshingly modern approach. They're fiercely protective of their children's childhoods, determined to make sure royal duty feels like a privilege, not a prison. They want George, Charlotte, and Louis to feel empowered, not burdened, one palace source revealed. That means blending palace lessons with everyday joys. Ballet classes for Charlotte, soccer matches for George, and messy garden playtime for Louis. And in a move no royal generation before them has truly embraced, the couple is introducing their children to the digital world under tight supervision, teaching them how social media shapes public perception and preparing them for life in a monarchy that can't afford to fall behind in a tech-driven age. Early whispers suggest the kids are adapting faster than anyone expected. The public can't get enough. Clips of Charlotte's graceful curtsies and George's thoughtful waves are flooding timelines, while Louis's cheeky grins continue to steal the spotlight online, sparking memes and hashtags like #Louis steals the show! A recent YouGov poll revealed that a stunning 87% of Britons believe the Wales children will redefine royalty, proof of just how deeply they've captured the public's heart. And it's not just their charm that's winning people over. It's the hope they spark. As one royal watcher posted online, "George, Charlotte, and Louis feel like our kids, growing up to make us proud." William and Catherine's careful balance between royal duty and personal individuality is paying off, crafting a new generation that's just as relatable as they are regal. Now, with their training officially underway, the world is watching, eager to see how these young royals will shape the monarchy's future. When King Charles's final speech hit the airwaves, it was like the entire nation paused, holding its breath before exhaling in a shared wave of gratitude and anticipation. From the cobbled streets of London to the rolling green hills of Scotland, people gathered everywhere, outside Buckingham Palace, in bustling village pubs, and online, to honor a king who had given everything and to welcome the family he'd chosen to carry the torch forward. Crowds braved a chilly July night, waving Union Jacks and leaving bouquets of roses and lilies at the palace gates. Each flower was a silent thank you for Charles's decades of service. Placards read, "God bless our king," and "William and Kate, you've got this," capturing a sentiment that felt almost universal. And online, the response exploded. Hashtags like "Jide Thank You Charles," "Future Wales," and "Wales Era" trended worldwide, pulling in millions of posts within hours. One tweet, shared over 50,000 times, read, "Charles stepped up when we needed him. Now William, Kate, and their kids will carry the torch. So proud." Another user posted a photo of their entire family huddled around the TV watching the speech, captioned, "Crying with pride for our royals." This flood of emotion wasn't just loyalty to the crown. It was a genuine connection to a family that has weathered storms under the harsh glare of the public eye. A Snap-Ov poll taken just hours after the broadcast revealed jaw-dropping numbers. 94% of Britons backed Charles's decision to step aside. 89% expressed total confidence in William and Catherine's leadership. And 78% admitted they felt personally invested in the Wales family. These figures tell a story of a monarchy reborn, a striking contrast to the shaky approval ratings of the turbulent 1990s. That trust comes from moments that feel deeply human. Catherine's unfiltered video revealing her cancer battle, William's roaring laughter as he chased Louis across a polo field, George's shy yet earnest wave at Trooping the Color. These aren't untouchable figures in gold-plated rooms. They're a family living life's highs and lows just like everyone else. Social media turned that bond into a global chorus. On X, fans reposted clips of Charlotte's graceful Commonwealth curtsy with captions like, "She's only 10. She's already a queen." Others stitched together montages of William and Catherine's tireless charity work, from mental health campaigns to early years projects, praising their heart and hustle. And Louis? His cheeky balcony antics had the internet crowning him the nation's little brother. Royal insiders say the Wales family was overwhelmed by the love, with Catherine reportedly tearing up as she read heartfelt drawings from school children, covered in crowns, Union Jacks, and hearts. "It's humbling," William was quoted as saying. "We feel the weight of their trust." And that trust wasn't limited to the UK. It stretched across the entire Commonwealth. From Canada to Australia, leaders and everyday citizens voiced their support. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese posted, "King Charles's grace paves the way for a bright future under William and Catherine." In Jamaica, community groups hosted watch parties, cheering when the king spoke of the children's training. One grandmother outside Kensington Palace summed it up perfectly. "Charles gave us stability. William and Kate give us hope. Those kids, they're our joy." It's a love story between a nation and its royals, and it feels destined to last. If William is the backbone of this new royal era, Catherine, Princess of Wales, is its beating heart. Her influence runs deep, rooted in her role as mother, advocate, and quiet but unshakable force behind palace walls. Royal insiders call her the linchpin of the transition, with one noting, "Kate's strength keeps everyone grounded." She's the one making sure the family is truly ready for what's next. Her parenting style blends empathy with practicality, shaping George, Charlotte, and Louis into individuals who are confident yet authentic, poised yet relatable. Her guidance is often subtle but powerful. A steady hand on Charlotte's back during Queen Elizabeth II's funeral, a playful nudge to Louis during Trooping the Color. Each gesture is a masterclass in leadership without overshadowing. And beyond those public moments, Catherine is quietly building the framework for a monarchy that will thrive under their watch. A future that feels more human, more connected, and more enduring than ever before. Catherine's influence on this new royal era is as personal as it is profound. Palace insiders share how, late at night, she sits with William mapping out their children's futures. Juggling royal duty with the need for normal family life, she's adamant they will grow up with a sense of purpose and the freedom to be themselves. One close aide revealed that this means bespoke education plans. George mastering the finer points of constitutional law, Charlotte honing her skills in diplomacy, and Louis diving into creative arts, all guided by Catherine's steady oversight, ensuring each path reflects their unique strengths. Her vision is rooted in her own initiatives, like the Center for Early Childhood, where she champions emotional intelligence as fiercely as royal protocol. And it shows. During a recent school event, Catherine knelt down to comfort a nervous Louis, whispering something that instantly brought a smile to his face. That simple act, caught on camera, went viral. Fans calling her the mum we all wish we had. The admiration is real, and it's everywhere. On X, posts praise her as a queen in waiting and the monarchy's secret weapon. A recent poll found 91% of Britons see her as a role model, many pointing to her candid cancer recovery as proof of her strength. But Catherine's ambitions reach beyond her own family. She's helping shape a monarchy that feels accessible, modern, and deeply compassionate. With her at the helm, the Wales family isn't just prepared for the future. They're rewriting it, one heartfelt moment at a time. And as the echoes of King Charles III's final speech fade, one truth stands tall. The monarchy's future is not just safe, it's alive, vibrant, and ready. His decision to step aside, a blend of courage and humility, was a masterclass in leadership, proving to the world what it means to trust the next generation. At the heart of the monarchy, King Charles has built a legacy that bridges the weight of tradition with the pulse of change. The training plans he set in motion are already taking shape, with William and Catherine working side by side with seasoned royal advisors to prepare their children for the world stage. George is diving deep into constitutional studies. Charlotte is sharpening her diplomatic instincts, and Louis is letting his creativity run free. Each path is tailored to their natural strengths, shaping them into the leaders of tomorrow. This is more than a royal transition. It's a family story that's striking a chord across the nation. Charles, now a proud grandfather, sees endless potential in his grandchildren. William, stepping into his role with quiet strength, carries forward his father's vision. And Catherine, the unshakable hand at the center, is ensuring her children grow with both confidence and compassion. Insiders say that just days after the speech, the family gathered at Sandringham, not for pomp or protocol, but for something rare. Pure togetherness. Over tea, with laughter spilling through the halls, Charles spoke of his hopes, his eyes glistening as he watched Louis chasing Charlotte through the gardens. "They'll make you proud," he told William, words that now echo the nation's own belief. The public's embrace has been nothing short of extraordinary. Flowers keep piling at Buckingham Palace gates, while social media surges with tributes. "Thank you, Charles," trending alongside "Dar Wales' future." A new poll even revealed that 95% of Britons feel inspired by the Wales family's authenticity and relatability. From Catherine's unflinching health updates to William's hands-on, sleeves-rolled-up approach to fatherhood, Charles has given us a monarchy that finally feels human. As one fan posted online, "George, Charlotte, and Louis are our future, and we're ready to cheer them on." Another wrote, "It's like watching our own family grow up in front of us." This connection, built through shared moments like Charlotte's perfectly poised curtsies or Louis's mischievous balcony waves, is proof that the monarchy's magic is still alive and thriving. So, what's your favorite moment from this historic royal shift? Was it Catherine's quiet strength, William's steadfast presence, or the charm of those young heirs stealing the spotlight? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you want more deep dives like this.
Welcome back to the channel, where we uncover the shocking twists inside the royal family. This time, King Charles has been left in tears at 76 after a ruthless demand from his own son, Prince William, and his sister, Princess Anne. The two reportedly pressured Charles to cut every single tie, financial and personal, to Queen Camilla's family, and what followed has rocked Buckingham Palace to its very core. According to insiders, William's plan to reset the monarchy was always going to be bold, but no one expected such a cold final move. Together with Anne, he delivered a blunt request to Charles: strip Camilla's relatives of every privilege and erase them from the future of the crown. For years, whispers of favoritism, hidden manipulation, and power games swirled behind those gilded gates. but now the whispers have exploded into an undeniable reality. The shock came wrapped in a perfectly worded, palace-approved statement. On an ordinary Tuesday morning, Buckingham Palace dropped a brief announcement cloaked in polite phrases about restructuring and institutional integrity. On the surface, it looked like business as usual, but to those paying attention, the silence was deafening. In just 200 words, something vital was missing. There was no mention of Queen Camilla's family at all. No Laura Lopes, no Tom Parker Bowles, not even a single face-saving line to acknowledge their supposed royal connection. Their absence screamed louder than any formal declaration. It was a surgical erasure, and the message was crystal clear. Camilla's clan no longer had a seat at the royal table. As soon as the statement hit the press, social media exploded. News outlets in London, New York, and Sydney plastered headlines across every platform, speculating whether this was the beginning of a long-awaited royal reform or something darker, a delayed act of revenge years in the making. Was this William and Anne finally tearing down Camilla's influence once and for all? Or just the surface crack of a much bigger power struggle hiding behind palace walls? The backlash was massive, and honestly, it was impossible to avoid. Public support for Camilla's family having royal ties had already collapsed in survey after survey, and this latest move only spotlighted just how unpopular they'd become. Critics were loud, saying her kids were unelected, unentitled freeloaders, living off the crown without a shred of bloodline or service to back it up. Others argued the decision wasn't just bold, it was survival. The monarchy had been scraping the bottom in approval ratings, and this was a desperate play to stay alive. But the roots of this historic shake-up go way deeper than most people realise. For years, tension had been brewing inside the palace walls. Prince William, watching every move, grew increasingly alarmed at how much shine Camilla's children were getting, especially Laura Lopes. Her constant presence at high-profile events, rolling with top aides, getting treated like a VIP, sparked whispers everywhere. Some even compared her access to the Windsor bloodline itself, a comparison that cut deep with Diana's children. Even senior royal staff who had served loyally for decades were blindsided. Many in the palace believed Camilla had secured her family's spot in royal society forever, inching them closer to inheritance, not by blood, but by proximity. Staff were even drafting possible future roles, expecting Laura and Tom to launch foundations, show up at ceremonies, maybe even get permanent responsibilities. But then came Charles's cold, calculated pronouncement, and overnight, all those expectations were torched. What once seemed like the inevitable future was wiped out with a single move. And while shock rattled the palace halls, the reaction outside the gates told another story. Across the Commonwealth, approval ratings shot up. Headlines praised the king for finally taking action, and social media blew up with comments like, "It's about time someone cleaned house." The people weren't just relieved, they were cheering. The reaction was explosive. People online shouted that Diana would be proud, and her name surged across trending charts worldwide. Royal Reset became the buzzword of the week, and by the fourth day straight, Diana herself topped global rankings. For once, it seemed like the monarchy's move had finally lined up with public opinion, but make no mistake, behind that cold, calculated announcement was a bitter feud years in the making, a hidden royal war that had been boiling under the surface. Insiders whispered that this wasn't just about titles or duties, it was about infiltration. Many claimed Camilla didn't step into the palace solely out of love, but by dynasty design. From the start, gossip swirled around her, not only about her spot at Charles's side, but about the quiet rise of her two children, Laura Lopes and Tom Parker Bowles. Slowly but surely, Camilla pulled her kids into the crown's orbit. While the world questioned whether the public would ever fully accept her, she was already weaving her personal life into royal tradition. Unlike any consort before her, Camilla's children weren't kept separate. They were there at banquets, on guest lists, and slipping into spaces once reserved for Windsors only. Laura, the polished art curator, always hovered near the margins of glittering events, never spotlighted, but never absent. Tom, the respected food critic, was less visible on the surface, but he held rare behind-the-scenes access that few outsiders could dream of. At first, it looked harmless. Polite invitations, family gestures, but palace insiders knew it was calculated. This wasn't coincidence, it was strategy. Camilla was embedding her bloodline into royal life, not by decree, but by presence, step by step until their inclusion looked permanent, even natural. But not everyone bought into the new normal. Behind the walls of Kensington Palace and Windsor Castle, William and Catherine's unease grew louder by the day. According to insiders close to the marriage, Prince William was feeling boxed in, isolated in decisions about the family's image and future. What troubled him most was how Camilla's children were being treated with a reverence that broke every royal convention. To William, the monarchy was built on bloodline, duty, and sacrifice, not affiliations or inherited perks from step relations. He saw their growing influence as a direct threat to the institution itself, and while Queen Elizabeth II kept her famous composure, whispers suggest she secretly shared concerns. Her public approval of Camilla was perfectly staged, but behind closed doors, the late Queen allegedly worried about how fast Camilla's family was climbing in the royal hierarchy. The palace, always guarded about proximity to power, grew uneasy. Even distant Windsor relatives had limited access, yet Camilla's children moved with an ease that startled veteran staffers. For centuries, the unwritten rule was clear. Access to the monarch came by blood or loyal service. But that foundation was cracking, replaced with an uncomfortable new reality. Camilla's family began to act like they belonged inside the system, without any official standing to justify it. One senior staffer bluntly described it as entitlement wrapped in the cloak of courtesy. Another insider claimed Laura Lopes often carried herself like a duchess, despite holding no title at all. These subtle slights may sound small, but inside the palace, they created a dangerous divide, pitting the heirs of Elizabeth and Diana against Camilla's growing inner circle. As those blurred lines deepened, royal identity itself began to fade. Was this really modernization, or was it quiet restructuring in disguise? One heir finally took a stand, speaking out against the creeping takeover, a prince shaped by his mother's legacy, determined to defend the crown before it slipped away forever. Prince William kept quiet for years, molded by duty and trained to live under the weight of royal restraint. But inside, frustration burned as he watched Camilla's family inch closer to the throne, not through sacrifice or service, but through quiet infiltration. What was once brushed off as politeness turned into something he couldn't ignore. Royal occasions, once sacred for heirs and senior royals, now had Laura Lopes and Tom Parker Bowles seated just a few steps from the heart of power, and for William, still grieving Diana, the symbolism was like a dagger. Accepting Camilla as queen consort had been painful but necessary for stability, yet seeing her children blend into the monarchy was a red line William refused to let anyone cross. Behind Buckingham's glittering facade, conflict was erupting. William and Charles, once united in repairing the monarchy's image after the scandals of the 90s, suddenly found themselves torn apart, not over policy, but over something deeply personal. In private, their conversations grew sharp and bitter. William confronted his father directly, reportedly saying, "This is not what she would have wanted." The she was Diana, and those words cut like steel. Her vision of a monarchy built on merit and duty haunted William, while Charles stood trapped between his devotion to Camilla and the son fighting to preserve the crown's identity. The tension didn't stay quiet for long. Servants whispered about the palace splitting into factions. Older staff who adored Diana and remained loyal to Queen Elizabeth's values quietly rallied behind William. Meanwhile, younger aides, closer to Charles and Camilla, argued that flexibility and modernization were the future. What began as family disagreements turned into a philosophical and generational. The question now tore through Buckingham's corridors: was the monarchy a sacred tradition to be defended at all costs, or a flexible machine that had to bend to survive? This was no longer a family disagreement. It was the very soul of the crown on trial. Outside, the public could sense the shift. Observers noted William's quiet but deliberate absence from Camilla's family functions, and the optics spoke louder than words. He stood cool apart from his stepmother, while tabloids began to speculate whether the father-son bond had finally snapped. Then came the picture that lit the fire. Laura Lopes, smiling serenely, was spotted touring Duchy of Cornwall estates, lands that symbolized centuries of heritage and were traditionally overseen by the heir to the throne. What looked casual to outsiders felt like a massive breach to William. Those properties weren't just real estate, They were the backbone of the monarchy's legacy. Seeing Camilla's daughter walk them with the quiet confidence of a future caretaker enraged not just William but even long-time royal guards. That moment pushed him to act. William moved fast, freezing access, reassigning duties, and setting up roadblocks against what he saw as Camilla's family's creeping takeover. But he wasn't alone. Princess Anne, the monarchy's iron backbone, had been watching closely. For decades she kept calm, worked tirelessly, and stayed far from media chaos. But now she sensed something was deeply wrong. Anne had stayed silent out of loyalty to her brother Charles and respect for the institution, but the ease with which Camilla's children were slipping into royal life set off alarm bells. When William, furious and alienated, finally came to her for support, that silence broke. Insiders say, after one private meeting with her nephew, Anne's entire demeanour shifted. The once neutral Princess Royal began quietly declining invitations tied to Camilla's children. Anne began quietly distancing herself, turning down joint appearances with polite excuses about scheduling conflicts. But palace insiders knew the truth. She refused to share royal responsibilities with anyone who hadn't earned their place through birth or public service. This wasn't about ego or rivalry. It was about bloodline, heritage, and the unwritten code that had carried the monarchy through centuries of war, scandal, and upheaval. But Camilla's children crossed that invisible line, and Anne had finally had enough. In a rare and bold move, she directly confronted her brother. Behind closed doors, with only a handful of trusted advisors present, Anne laid her cards on the table. "You are the king," she reportedly declared firmly. "You are your mother's son." She would never have tolerated this. Her words weren't cruel, but they were sharp. The voice of a woman who had spent her entire life safeguarding the crown. Charles sat in silence, torn between two worlds, the love he held for his wife and the iron weight of his ancestry. For the first time in his reign, he was forced to face a brutal choice: preserve the monarchy's ancient foundations or bend them for personal comfort. Anne didn't mince words. Sources say she warned him bluntly that if he weakened the monarchy's structure for private gain, history would not forgive him. This wasn't a threat. It was a vow. Anne stood unshakable, reminding her brother that the monarchy was no playground for loyalty games. She stood for the institution, not the whims of individuals. Her stance quickly became headline news. The media exploded with speculation. "The princess takes a stand," one tabloid roared. Royal commentators praised her integrity, calling her the last living embodiment of Queen Elizabeth's controlled, disciplined, and incorruptible era. Public anger against Camilla's family had already hit boiling point, and the pressure on King Charles became unbearable. The tide didn't just turn, it came crashing down, suffocating the palace. And at the centre of it all came a moment no one expected: the Queen's plea and her most vulnerable betrayal. Camilla didn't approach her husband as a queen that night. She came as a terrified mother, desperate to protect her children from being erased. In the hushed rooms of Buckingham Palace, with no press and no advisors, she begged Charles for help. Palace insiders say her tone was filled with dread, not rage. She knew her life's balance was slipping away, the delicate world she'd built between her royal duty and motherhood unraveling in front of her eyes. She said Laura and Tom never asked for anything, whispered one confidant. They never wanted titles, never demanded power, only to belong. Camilla's voice was said to be tight with emotion, her words both desperate and pleading. But that request clashed with the brutal truth. Her children's quiet presence had already been seen as overreach, their very existence in royal spaces viewed as intrusion. For Camilla, the pain went deeper than rejection. It cut into her legacy. The ghost of being the second wife resurfaced, along with the terrifying thought that history might remember her family not as loyal supporters, but as unwanted outsiders, erased and insignificant. Insiders claim she broke down completely, telling Charles through tears, "This decision, it will tear us apart." Those words crushed the king. He had weathered disgrace, decades of public scrutiny, and personal heartbreak, but nothing compared to this private storm. For the first time, Charles wasn't just a monarch. He was a broken man, caught between the woman he loved and the crown he was sworn to protect. What began as quiet grumbling had now exploded into a full-scale crisis. For a brief moment, Charles's inner circle begged him to delay decisions, to stall the inevitable. Mediation was floated, compromises were drafted, and there was talk of shifting roles rather than erasing them outright. But just as the palace tried to control the emotional firestorm, the unthinkable happened. A betrayal from within. One leak, one document, and the balance of power shattered forever. A confidential draft from the Duchy of Cornwall's long-term planning files slipped into the hands of a major publication, and what it revealed was devastating. The papers didn't just speculate, they confirmed suspicions. Laura Lopes, Camilla's daughter, had been quietly nominated as a future trustee of the Crown's real estate empire. Not a consultant, not a guest advisor, but a guardian of the monarchy's most sacred assets. The uproar was instant. To the public, this was the smoking gun they had always suspected. For years, whispers claimed Camilla had been weaving her children into the monarchy's core, but now the evidence was on paper. Palace emails and advisory notes painted a clear picture. Camilla's office had been maneuvering carefully, diplomatically, but with one goal in mind: sliding Laura and Tom closer to the beating heart of royal wealth and power. Camilla never asked for titles or crowns for her children, but she fought to position them beside the monarchy's assets, slipping them into influence without the trappings of formality. To outsiders, it looked like motherly devotion, but insiders called it something darker: strategy cloaked in loyalty. When Charles saw the leaked draft, insiders say he went pale and fell silent. The king, who had faced scandal after scandal, suddenly looked broken. He had always believed Camilla would keep her family life separate from the monarchy's sacred infrastructure. The leaked papers blurred every line and left the king staring at a personal reckoning. This wasn't just about politics anymore. It was about trust, betrayal, and his own judgment. Had Charles misread his wife's ambitions, or had he chosen blindness just to keep the peace at home? Princess Anne and Prince William wasted no time. According to palace insiders, they stormed into Charles's office, papers in hand, and laid them on his desk with one chilling message: this must end. No more delays. No more bargaining. Their demand was clear. The monarchy could not survive if the crown looked like a private playground for unelected outsiders. Camilla's silence in the storm spoke volumes. As news of the leaked draft spread, the internet exploded across the Commonwealth. Hashtags like "Not Our Royals" trended at the top, while television panels, newspapers, and commentators tore the issue apart. "This isn't modernization," one headline blared. "It's manipulation." Calls for sweeping changes, even resignations, thundered from every corner. For the first time since his mother's death, Charles felt the terrifying weight of losing the people's support. Emergency meetings filled the palace. Advisors scrambled over polls, strategies, and desperate plans. But everyone knew the truth. The king had only two choices: act decisively or watch the monarchy collapse under his reign. And so came the moment no one will forget. To preserve the crown, Charles had to betray Camilla's children, and maybe her trust forever. On that fateful day, the ground under Buckingham seemed to tremble as the final decree was signed. Anne stood firm, William stood ready, and Camilla retreated in silence, the queen without words, watching her family erased from the royal core in one sweeping move. King Charles III's order landed like a thunderclap, and it permanently redrew the lines of who truly belongs inside the crown's circle. That morning, a sudden, unapologetic statement was released, confirming every whispered rumour. Camilla's family was out, permanently removed from royal trusts, their quiet duties ended, their access cut. No more shadow influence, no more quiet seats near power, and no more claim to the monarchy's riches or authority. From that moment forward, only direct Windsor heirs would control royal lands, finances, and trusts. The line was drawn in permanent ink, the gates locked for good. What the world didn't see was the storm inside the palace the night before. Private family meetings held in a plain room, stripped of cameras and pomp, where the fate of the monarchy and one marriage was sealed. Charles delivered the news not as a monarch, but as a husband, trembling as he clutched the signed decree. Insiders say his voice broke as he confessed to Camilla, "The monarchy must survive us both." He spoke of duty and heritage, but his eyes betrayed the truth. This wasn't just a decision, it was heartbreak. He was tearing apart his partner's world with a single stroke of his pen. Camilla's response was chilling. Witnesses say she didn't shout, didn't plead, didn't argue. She sat frozen, her face like stone, before rising in silence and walking out. No protest, no words, just a heavy quiet that made even veteran courtiers uneasy. In that moment, the once powerful queen consort became a ghost in her own palace. It wasn't one betrayal that crushed her. It was the devastating realization that she and her children would forever be outsiders. Days later, Laura Lopes vanished from public view, cancelling her appearances without explanation, while Tom Parker Bowles dropped a cryptic comment in a podcast speaking of conditional loyalty. Camilla's children didn't dare wage war against the monarchy, but their quiet withdrawal spoke louder than words. They kept their distance, respectful yet wounded, proof of a family cut out of the future, but determined to remind the world of the human cost. Outside Buckingham Palace, the reaction was thunderous. Crowds gathered, waving posters that read, "Protect the Crown," and "For William and Anne." In a climate of suspicion and division, the monarchy briefly found unity, as commentators hailed the move as a masterstroke, Charles's smartest decision yet. Some even called it his greatest act as king, while others saw it as a reckoning that should have come years ago. But inside the palace, triumph looked very different. The queen consort's apartments grew eerily silent, the walls heavy with absence. Camilla still wore the crown, but without her children behind her, the power she once wielded was hollow. Her palace had become her prison. This was the beginning of her unraveling, not with fury or scandal, but with an eerie silence that fell over her like fog. She stopped attending briefings. Engagements vanished from her calendar, and the once familiar sight of Laura and Tom in royal corridors disappeared overnight. The influence she fought so carefully to build had collapsed, leaving Camilla isolated at its center. Palace aides began whispering about the change. They described a withdrawn queen, her crisp tone gone, her presence diminished. "She rarely makes eye contact anymore," one longtime staffer revealed, "and often leaves ceremonies without a word. Even her laughter, once a constant in early dinners, faded into stillness." And the distance didn't stop there. Even Charles himself began to retreat. Beyond their formal duties, the two appeared together less and less, with insiders describing clipped conversations and frosty silences behind closed doors. The press quickly noticed. Tabloids splashed speculation about Camilla's fragile mental state, painting a picture of a queen consort who had gone from powerful to ghost-like almost overnight. Was she ill? Was she broken? Headlines swirled with questions, speculating whether Camilla was quietly retiring from public life. But behind the polished palace press lines, one truth grew undeniable. The queen consort was no longer a power player, just a ceremonial figure, a living reminder of a chapter the monarchy wanted buried. Camilla still clung to a faint hope. She believed that once the outrage cooled, Charles might quietly restore what had been taken from her children. But that final hope was crushed weeks later, when palace watchers noticed a sealed royal document quietly added to Windsor's archives. The game was over. After agonizing deliberation, Charles had signed a new trust protocol, airtight, generational, and ruthless. From now on, only direct bloodline heirs could oversee royal estates, finances, and institutional power. The names were spelled out with chilling precision. William, Prince of Wales, his heir Prince George, and Princess Charlotte were all prepared for succession duties without debate or compromise. Camilla's children were erased, permanently. To soften the blow, Charles sent Camilla a private letter. No seal, no staff, just his handwriting. He admitted sorrow and regret, conceding that what began as inclusion had become intrusion. "Not from malice," he wrote, "but from misjudgment." The note ended with 7 heavy words that sealed both their fates. "I had no choice. History required it." With that, the chapter closed. Historians already credit Princess Anne's steel resolve with saving the monarchy from a creeping collapse. William rose stronger than ever, making more appearances, speaking with new authority, and drawing closer to the bloodline destiny now secured for his children. Public approval surged, and for the first time in years, people felt the monarchy had listened. Camilla, meanwhile, faded into private life. Her family, once hovering near the center of power, withdrew completely, leaving her alone with the quiet knowledge that history had erased their place in the crown. forever. And just like that, their short but explosive chapter in royal history was over, sealed and forgotten. The hush that fell over Buckingham Palace was heavy, final, and irreversible. With one bold stroke, King Charles restored the monarchy's lineage, slamming the door on Camilla's dream of creating a blended dynasty. The very king who had once elevated her to the throne became the same man who erased her family from it. What a brutal, historic twist. The crown had spoken. Tradition triumphed, and the monarchy returned to its pure bloodline roots. Camilla's children slipped quietly into the shadows, while the Windsors stood taller than ever before. For some, it was justice. For others, it was heartbreak. But no one could deny it. History had been made, and the royal reset was complete. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think Charles did the right thing, or did he betray Camilla in the worst way possible? Drop your thoughts below. And if you made it this far, sound off in the comments. Do you think this decree saved the monarchy or doomed it? Make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you want more deep dives like this.
An extraordinary ability for one who perhaps had a background that was much more difficult than we realised. So therefore, the ability to always see positive and move forward must have been built into his psyche. It must have been an incredible challenge to have to deal with.
But he's done it with the most extraordinary flair and an extraordinary tact.
In the ever-changing world of the British monarchy, where crowns sparkle under endless flashes and every quiet word can ignite global buzz, this moment feels heavier than most. King Charles III, in a move balancing royal tradition with modern urgency, has officially elevated James, Earl of Wessex, to the rank of His Royal Highness. Now, Prince James, at just 17, the youngest grandson of the late Queen Elizabeth II, has stepped out from the quiet corners of royal life and into the full glare of the royal spotlight. No longer the reserved figure watching from the sidelines, James now stands at the edge of a legacy that has shaped nations for centuries. This decision, whispered through the palace halls as autumn settles in, isn't just ceremony, it's strategy. James, the only son of Prince Edward, Duke of Edinburgh, and Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, has always carried the quiet elegance of the monarchy's hidden heart. Born into a life draped in royal formality, yet carefully shielded from its blinding glare, he grew up as the monarchy's mystery. A boy of titles and lineage who still managed to walk through life like any other student. No cameras chasing him down the school gates, no headlines about his every move, just quiet dignity behind the palace walls. But now, that calm invisibility is gone. Sources from Buckingham Palace confirm that King Charles III has officially exercised royal prerogative, using the 1917 letters patent to grant James the long-awaited title of Prince. This isn't some spur-of-the-moment indulgence, it's a move rooted in legacy and timing. Even Princess Anne and Prince Edward have subtly hinted at this generational shift in their rare, heartfelt interviews, emphasizing duty over spectacle. And what timing indeed! With James turning 18 this December, the decision lands like a symbolic torch passing, the moment where boyhood ends and destiny begins. For years, people wondered if he'd ever claim his right to the HRH title. But with the royal family growing smaller and the pressure mounting, this bold move sends a clear message. The crown isn't retreating, it's rebuilding. It's a quiet sign of renewal, proof that the monarchy is willing to evolve, not just cling to old glories. The institution is no longer content to simply survive. It's learning to thrive in a world that constantly questions its place and purpose. So, what sparked this powerful shift? And how does it strengthen the road ahead for Prince William and Catherine, the Princess of Wales? The duo destined to carry the monarchy into its next defining chapter. As the dust from this announcement settles, the motives begin to reveal themselves, a blend of duty, strategy, and a touch of ambition wrapped in royal restraint. To truly understand it, we must look closer at the life that shaped this young prince. James's journey isn't one of scandal or spotlight, but of quiet growth and grounded values. A mirror of the monarchy's own fight to balance tradition with authenticity. Raised in the serene beauty of Bagshot Park, he's lived a life far removed from royal chaos. Weekends spent at equestrian events, cosy holidays in the Scottish Highlands, and carefree moments at small-town fairs show just how normal his upbringing has been. While his cousins battled constant media frenzy, James was given something priceless: peace. His education at St Mary's Ascot and later Radley College reflects that same calm focus. Yet beneath that calm, ordinary surface runs the unmistakable blood of kings. James may have lived a quiet life, but his destiny has always been royal. And now it's official. His promotion to prince doesn't shake up the order of succession, where he remains 16th behind the Wales heirs, but it does something just as important. It prepares him for real service without stirring any jealousy within the family. Royal correspondent Robert Jobson summed it up perfectly in his latest report, saying this move revitalizes the royal core without rewriting the playbook. It's a masterstroke of balance and a reflection of King Charles III's careful leadership. This isn't about vanity or favoritism, it's about securing the future. Charles has managed to honour his late mother's inclusive legacy while steering the monarchy toward practical renewal in a changing world. Palace insiders reveal that both Princess Anne and Prince Edward quietly backed the decision, describing it as a natural evolution rather than a revolution. In their blunt, no-nonsense style, they've said it's about spreading the royal workload, sharing the spotlight instead of guarding it. Behind the grandeur lies the human side. Those late-night family talks where private dreams are measured against the unrelenting call of duty. From the moment he was born, James carried the title of Viscount, a name that spoke of nobility, but with quiet grace rather than flashy privilege. His childhood was far from the royal stereotypes people imagine. He attended regular schools, made genuine friends untouched by royal formality, and joined family trips to Balmoral that felt more like cosy family gatherings than grand state events. Those early years shaped him into something rare, a royal who could blend in effortlessly while still carrying history in his veins. In school, James shined in history and geography, subjects that hinted at his deep awareness of legacy without letting it define him. Then came the next step. In March 2023, he became the Earl of Wessex after his father's elevation to Duke of Edinburgh. It was a subtle but meaningful shift. And during public moments like the 2024 Easter service, the transformation was visible. His tall, composed frame dressed in classic, understated suits, commanding quiet attention without trying too hard. Behind the scenes, his interests bloomed quietly. Sailing along the Solent became his escape. Wind, waves, and peace away from the palace noise. His volunteer work with environmental groups mirrors his uncle King Charles's passion for nature, while his curiosity for diplomacy reflects his mother, Sophie's global influence and humanitarian grace. Together, these interests revealed something powerful. James wasn't just another royal name in the background. He was becoming his own person, much like his sister, Lady Louise, who chose her own path at St Andrews University. Still, royal insiders couldn't help but whisper, could this calm, thoughtful young man play a bigger role one day? As King Charles's leaner monarchy takes shape, cutting costs and recentering purpose, attention naturally turned toward the Edinburgh line. It's a move that follows royal precedents, much like Princess Beatrice's carefully chosen duties, offering balance, flexibility, and freedom. Behind closed doors, Prince Edward reportedly told royal biographer Ingrid Seward that this decision celebrates James's growing maturity while still protecting the innocence of his youth. Princess Anne, ever the voice of reason, echoed the same during private family meetings, calling it a natural step forward rather than a leap into pressure. Their combined support, built on decades of loyal service, reveals one undeniable truth: the monarchy doesn't survive by isolation, but by fresh blood and renewal. Still, the shift raises powerful questions about identity and purpose. Does a princely title free a young royal, or cage him? For James, it's both an opportunity and a challenge. His new rank opens doors to meaningful patronages, causes close to his heart like youth empowerment, education, and heritage preservation, areas where his perspective could truly shine. But it also invites the kind of public attention he's long avoided. Those once private school days and harmless teenage moments could now easily become media snippets. As he prepares for university, possibly even abroad to embrace the world beyond the palace gates, that invisible weight grows heavier. His once quiet story now becomes a key piece in the monarchy's next chapter, personal growth merging with royal evolution. And the real question remains, what exactly guided King Charles's hand? Royal insiders say both Anne and Edward's measured counsel helped shape this move, a masterstroke of sentiment wrapped in strategy. King Charles, in a subtle yet powerful act of royal discretion, has invoked the 1917 letters patent, extending the coveted style of His Royal Highness and the title of Prince to his nephew, James. It's a gesture that uplifts without overcomplicating, a move that strengthens the institution while keeping its balance intact. Make no mistake, this isn't a routine royal checkbox. It's a calculated recalibration of the monarchy's working lineup, breathing new energy into a system tested by retirements, relocations, and shifting public demands. James remains securely 16th in line to the throne, his new title serving more as a badge of service than a mark of ambition, a way to reinforce unity within the House of Windsor rather than disturb it. The royal mechanics behind this are both simple and strategic. As a grandson of Queen Elizabeth II, James has always held a dormant claim to the HRH title, one his parents deliberately set aside to give him a more grounded upbringing. But as his 18th birthday approaches, tradition allows that claim to be revived. And Charles moved first, signing off on the change himself. According to an internal memo quietly referenced by The Times, the King's decision was rooted in the evolving needs of royal service. It's a move that echoes the 2012 adjustment that granted titles to the Cambridge children. But the ripple effects of this decision are far from quiet. James can now officially represent the crown, from local ribbon cuttings to international diplomacy, all while continuing his studies, carefully balancing duty and normalcy, just as his parents always intended. At the heart of this story stand two familiar voices, Princess Anne and Prince Edward, whose words add both warmth and wisdom to this royal milestone. During their joint appearance at the 2025 Commonwealth Summit, Anne, the monarchy's most unshakable force, cut straight to the point, telling reporters, "The crown's strength lies in its adaptability." Granting James this honour equips him to contribute without compromising the core line. It's about shared shoulders for a shared load, delivered in her signature crisp tone. The statement was classic Anne, pragmatic, powerful, and deeply rooted in service. Prince Edward later expanded on that sentiment during his sit-down with BBC royal editor Nicholas Witchell, explaining, "Father always believed in preparing the next waves. This step honours that, allowing James to serve William's vision with fresh energy, unburdened by rivalry." His words reflected quiet pride, not just as a father, but as a son, honouring Prince Philip's legacy of preparing the next generation for leadership. Together, their insights reveal the layers behind the king's choice. With Charles managing his own health challenges and the royal household still adjusting after recent turbulence, James's elevation represents stability, a calm, disciplined young royal stepping into the fold at exactly the right moment. He embodies the spirit of the Edinburgh line, hard-working, dignified, and free from scandal. His influence is unmistakable too. Her focus on humility and compassion continues to shape James's grounded outlook. She's ensured he enters this next chapter with empathy, not entitlement. Unlike the turbulence surrounding the 2018 Sussex expansions that stirred fierce debate, this elevation has been handled with restraint and precision, expanding the working core without overextending the brand. As royal expert Robert Jobson noted, it fortifies without fragmenting, strengthening the monarchy's foundation while maintaining clear hierarchy beneath Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis. And while the power here may seem subtle, its reach runs deep. Insiders hint that James could soon take on patronage for the Duke of Edinburgh's award, reviving Prince Philip's legacy for a new generation. So how exactly does this strengthen the path for William and Catherine's reign? And what new doors swing open for the next generation? As Anne and Edward's explanations sink in, the strategy behind Charles's move becomes unmistakable, a royal blueprint for longevity, drawn with precision and purpose. In the intricate maze of monarchy, where tradition wrestles with modern expectation, few voices carry more authority than Princess Anne and Prince Edward. Their words cut through the noise, offering not PR polish, but lived truth, shaped by decades of unrelenting service. Princess Anne, The monarchy's iron spine sees this move not as sentiment, but survival. Speaking at a post-announcement panel during the Royal Windsor Horse Show, she declared with her trademark bluntness, "Monarchy thrives on relevance." James's title ensures we draw from depth, not just the front row. It lightens the path for William and Catherine without stirring unnecessary currents. That statement, short and sharp, said it all. She's watched the cracks form from too few shoulders carrying too much. From her own brief hospitalization in 2024 to the absences of Harry and Andrew, and she knows the cost of an overstretched monarchy better than anyone. Anne's vision is crystal clear. A team of teams approach where the lesser-seen royals quietly keep the machine running. And that's where James steps in, as reinforcement, not replacement. Prince Edward echoed her sentiment in his own calm, thoughtful tone during an exclusive with Vanity Fair, explaining, "Sophie and I raised James to choose freely, but this grant from Charles affirms his place in service. It's designed to support the Wales line, offering duties that enhance rather than eclipse, keeping harmony in our ranks." His words reveal both pride and restraint, the delicate art of preparing a son for public life without overwhelming him. Together, Anne and Edward's perspectives outline Charles's long game, fortifying the House of Windsor from within. With the Wales family carrying the future of the crown, James's inclusion acts as both relief and reinforcement. Together, their council paints a portrait of strategic empathy, one unburdened by succession anxieties, yet deeply attuned to institutional health. "We've slimmed wisely," Anne once said, "but wisdom demands reinforcements." Edward, drawing from his theatre roots and environmental advocacy, underscores personal alignment over privilege. "James shares my quiet commitment," he noted. This title allows him to channel it toward William's modern monarchy, free from the shadows of succession. Their words, rare in their candour, echo Sophie's earlier ethos while adapting to present exigencies. No resentment colours them, only resolve, underscoring familial bonds that transcend titles. This duo's influence reaches back to Elizabeth II's reign, where Anne's no-frills dedication and Edward's steadfast loyalty earned both trust and quiet distinction. Now, they bridge generations, ensuring James's elevation aligns with a broader royal evolution. Their explanations dispel doubts, framing the moment not as indulgence but as progression. Yet beneath the ceremonial calm lies a deeper question. How does this fortify William and Catherine, the monarchy's next centre of gravity, whose era promises innovation balanced by continuity? As Anne and Edward's insights resonate, the royal mosaic sharpens. Each piece is positioned with intent to steady the throne's next stewards. At the heart of James's princely ascent lies a profound allegiance to the future embodied by the Prince and Princess of Wales, whose partnership symbolises a monarchy reimagined for the 21st century. William, the steady Prince of Wales, has long championed a leaner, greener monarchy, one where engagements favour impact over excess. Catherine, with her focus on early childhood and mental wellness, complements this vision with quiet precision. Yet both understand the fragility of finite resources within a shrinking royal roster. James's title, therefore, delivers precisely calibrated support. Positioned securely below the Wales children in succession, he represents no threat, only augmentation. As Anne observed in dispatches to the Telegraph, William's plate overflows with preparation. James offers reliable relief. He can shoulder regional visits, youth forums, and environmental engagements that mirror Catherine's initiatives in child development and community resilience. Edward adds a familial perspective to this arrangement. This strengthens their foundation, he reflected, allowing William to lead boldly while James manages the groundwork. Much as I once did for father. Early indications suggest James will shadow William at select environmental summits and assist Catherine's Hold Still and early years projects, fostering synergy without duplication. This reinforcement addresses tangible strains. Post-2024, with Anne's convalescence and Sophie's expanded duties, the number of active working royals has hovered perilously low. It echoes Charles's own youth, when uncles like Kent and Gloucester quietly fortified Elizabeth's reign. For Catherine, still navigating the aftermath of chemotherapy, such allies ensure sustained visibility across both global and domestic arenas, from Commonwealth tours to the causes closest to her heart. William, in private briefings, has reportedly welcomed the move as a gesture of family fortitude, according to aides cited in the Mail. Yet the genius of this design lies in its subtlety. No power grabs, only purposeful placement. Endorsed by Anne's efficiency and Edward's quiet equity, the model allows William and Catherine's innovations, like digital diplomacy and early years advocacy, to flourish unhindered. As their era dawns, James emerges as the monarchy's quiet quartermaster, stocking the arsenal for a reign both resilient and relatable. What vistas does this open for the rising generation, and how deftly does it dodge discord within the line of succession? The architecture of this decision begins to reveal itself, a scaffold for sovereignty's next sunrise. James's elevation ripples outward, heralding a new chapter in which younger royals step forward not as reluctant recruits, but as empowered participants. This princely mantle unlocks avenues for service once whispered about, now roaring with relevance, all while preserving the monarchy's streamlined ethos. James's role invites others to contribute meaningfully, distributing duties with quiet democracy. Edward concurs, telling Hello magazine, "It's about invitation, not imposition," enabling Louise's peers to engage on their own terms, bolstering William's framework. For James, his path may span patronages in scouting and sustainability, echoing his grandfather's ventures, or virtual outreach to schools, blending tradition with technology. This model cascades. Cousins like Peter Phillips or Zara Tindall could formalise advisory roles, while Beatrice's daughters may glimpse opportunities for structured service. It counters the staffing shortage narrative that has dogged the institution for years, with royal analyst Emily Andrews projecting James could log 75 engagements annually post-university. Catherine's initiatives, in particular, stand to gain junior allies, fostering intergenerational bonds that humanise the crown. The beauty lies in boundaries. Duties remain optional, scrutiny shared. Edward emphasises, "We learned from Louise's choices." This empowers without enclosing. The model draws inspiration from Scandinavian blueprints, where marginal royals opt in flexibly, sustaining relevance through choice rather than compulsion. For the rising youth wave, it promises purpose without prison, a monarchy redefined by consent, not command. As Anne quipped, "The crown isn't a solo, it's an ensemble that sentiment encapsulates the quiet revolution underfoot, empowerment that redefines legacy, turning potential into partnership." But how does this harmony navigate the minefield of succession, ensuring elevation uplifts all without eclipsing any? The answer lies in architecture, not accident. In the intricate ballet of British succession, where every step risks a tangle, James's new status stands as a masterstroke of measured might. James serves beneath the Wales vault, adding depth without division. Edward, reflecting in The Spectator, added, "It's engineered for concord," letting him aid without ambition, preserving the line's clarity for George and beyond. This precision averts historical heartaches like Edward VIII's abdication ripple. Now 16th and receding further with each new birth, James wields influence as adjunct, not aspirant. His duties are capped at supportive tiers, avoiding the spare syndromes that once plagued Harry. Updated palace protocols following the announcement delineate clear boundaries, no solo state visits. Collaborative calendars synced directly with William's office. It mirrors the Gloucester model, beautiful yet distant, Edward notes. Father's counsel was always balance. This honours it, quelling any whispers of competition. For Catherine, it signals unthreatened expansion, her projects amplified by James's youth appeal without dilution. The hierarchy holds George, the future king, Charlotte and Louis, keystones of continuity. James, the keel that steadies the ship. Anne's wisdom tempers any potential conflict. When roles ring true, rivalry has no room. This sidestep safeguards serenity, a dynasty dancing in unison. As futures fork, verdant paths await this fortified family. The design endures, discord dissolves into deliberate design. Now, as James, Prince of Wessex, gazes toward 18, his elevation etches a new chapter in the Windsor saga, one of quiet courage and collective cunning. King Charles's vision, voiced through Anne and Edward's unvarnished truths, positions him as linchpin in a leaner, livelier realm, fortifying William and Catherine's dawn without dimming their star. Duties beckon as bridges, not burdens, inviting youth to infuse the old guard with innovation, while the spine of succession stands straight and strong. Speculation swirls, university in Edinburgh perhaps, shadowing Sophie's diplomacy or William's conservation quests. While Edward dreams of a legacy shaped by choice, challenges still linger, from public polls on pageantry to global gazes fixed on fairness. Yet this move signals something rare: adaptability, a crown curving with the currents of change. For the family, it mends the margins, weaving James into the fabric of duty without fray or force. In this delicate balance, the monarchy murmurs modernity, tradition, tempered by tomorrow's touch. James's step, small in scale, looms large in legacy, a testament to ties that transcend thrones. As the palace lights flicker on fresh horizons, one truth endures. In unity, endurance, and evolution lies the monarchy's quiet power. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the House of Windsor, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Celebrity Scoop for more untold royal stories, rare insights, and historical revelations that keep the crown shining. Welcome back to the channel where we uncover untold royal drama and behind-the-scenes stories that shake the palace walls. This time, it's King Charles caught in the middle after Queen Camilla unleashed a jaw-dropping confrontation with Catherine, Princess of Wales, an explosive breach of royal etiquette that has everyone talking. The clash between Queen Camilla and Catherine wasn't just a heated disagreement. It was a royal standoff that left King Charles furious, right in front of shocked palace staff who couldn't believe their eyes. Witnesses say the tension in the room was unbearable, with raised voices echoing through the corridors of Buckingham Palace. This wasn't just about etiquette, it was a direct challenge to royal order itself. The dramatic showdown has exposed long-simmering rivalries inside the family, revealing fractures that can no longer be hidden. Staff described the moment as a sudden storm breaking out in the middle of what was supposed to be a quiet meeting. What was meant to be a routine staff gathering quickly spiraled into a dramatic collision of personalities and power. For years, people whispered about these tensions, but now the world has seen them erupt in the most public and damaging way yet. According to multiple witnesses, Queen Camilla didn't just argue, she went straight at Catherine, Princess of Wales, in a way so aggressive it shocked everyone in the room. The carefully polished image of royal unity shattered in seconds, leaving jaws on the floor. But insiders say the real shock wasn't Camilla, it was King Charles himself. Sources reveal that Charles III completely unraveled, lashing out in a fiery tirade against everyone present, something never seen before in his reign. The monarch, long thought of as steady and composed, suddenly broke down in front of his most trusted staff. People trained to remain calm under any circumstance stood frozen, torn between loyalty to the crown and sheer disbelief at what they were witnessing. This wasn't just another family spat, it was an open challenge to the very top of royal authority. Palace insiders whisper that the fallout is only beginning, and some fear this could mark the breaking point that threatens to destabilize the House of Windsor itself. What makes it even more dramatic is how the scene began. The palace had been glowing with calm formality. The grand stateroom gleamed under chandeliers polished until they glittered like stars. Fresh flowers lined the halls, releasing a soft fragrance that mixed with the faint, clean scent of beeswax candles. Yet in that serene setting, chaos erupted like a thunderclap, leaving behind a scandal that no amount of royal polish could hide. Staff glided across the velvet carpets with quiet precision, their movements so smooth it looked like choreography. Their voices barely rose above whispers, giving the impression of flawless order, as if the palace itself was preparing for yet another immaculate display. But behind that polished surface there was tension bubbling, like a restless river trapped beneath ice. Catherine, Princess of Wales, was one of the first to sense it. Known for her sharp awareness and emotional intelligence, she immediately picked up on the strange unease filling the room. Every bow, every polite smile, every perfect gesture from the attendants was there, but their eyes gave them away, faces tight, glances darting, like each one was silently carrying a secret too heavy to share. Trying to make sense of it, Catherine paused and gently asked a young housemaid if the evening reception was on track. back. The maid froze for a second, clearly unsettled, before blurting out a rushed reply. With an anxious curtsy, she insisted, "Everything is perfectly on schedule, Your Royal Highness," but her voice carried a nervous edge that said otherwise. Without waiting, she hurried off, leaving Catherine with even more questions and a growing sense that something big was about to break loose. Catherine couldn't shake the unease as the maid slipped quickly down the hallway. The reassurance she gave felt hollow, like a line rehearsed under pressure. As the day unfolded, that feeling only grew stronger. From the service pantries and shadowed alcoves, Catherine caught fragments of hushed conversations. Each time she approached, the voices stopped, leaving behind nothing but half-finished sentences that hung heavy in the air. Once, she heard a burst of laughter from a group of footmen, yet the moment she turned the corner, silence struck like a curtain dropping on a stage. Catherine tried to brush it off as ordinary palace chatter, the kind of background gossip that had always buzzed through royal halls. But deep down, she knew this was something different. These whispers weren't idle. They carried weight, like hidden warnings being passed in secret. Even so, she forced herself to play the part expected of her. Catherine had long been accustomed to watchful eyes and guarded words. Her duty demanded calm composure, not visible nerves. So she smiled, glided through the corridors, and projected the grace everyone demanded from the Princess of Wales. She checked the smallest details, praised the florists for their arrangements, and oversaw preparations with her usual perfection. But inside, she felt it, the creeping sense that something invisible was drawing closer, pressing in from the shadows. It was as if the very walls of the castle were holding their breath, waiting for an explosion no one dared name. Every passing hour, the tension in the air thickened, wrapping around the staff until their every move seemed weighed down by dread. Even the ancient palace walls, silent witnesses to centuries of secrets and scandals, seemed to lean in, as if they too were listening. It felt like the stones themselves carried whispers that could no longer be contained. Standing before her mirror, Catherine adjusted the folds of her sapphire blue gown, trying to convince herself she was imagining things. Maybe the murmurs were just overworked staff gossiping again. Yet deep inside she knew better. Years of navigating the hidden codes of royal life had sharpened her instincts too much to ignore. The stage was set for elegance and order, sparkling chandeliers, perfectly pressed uniforms, and an atmosphere of flawless routine. But beneath that glittering surface lay something darker, an invisible fault line trembling with pressure, waiting for the moment it would finally snap. Catherine couldn't know just how close the breaking point was, or how powerful the shock would be when it hit. But the palace felt it, the walls felt it, and soon, everyone would. Behind the facade of calm, the highest-ranking staff were already gathering in the Red Room for one final briefing before the grand state event. The mahogany table gleamed like glass, every inch polished to perfection, briefing papers stacked in immaculate rows before each seat. At the head sat Catherine, Princess of Wales, her posture perfectly composed, her eyes sharp and attentive. She listened carefully as the master of the household recited the evening's itinerary. Every detail in order, yet every word delivered against a backdrop of tension so thick it could almost be touched. Around Catherine, aides and department heads nodded politely, their pencils ready, faces carefully blank, as if rehearsed for formality. But beneath that stiff professionalism, Catherine could feel the tension crawling across the room, a low hum of pressure that buzzed like static before a storm. And then the spark walked in. Queen Camilla. She entered with quick, forceful strides that thudded against the old carpeting, her presence immediately pulling every eye toward her. Even those long used to her sudden moods shifted uncomfortably, unsettled by the sharp set of her jaw and the heavy glare she carried like a weapon. Without waiting for acknowledgement, Camilla cut across the room before the master of the household could even finish his briefing. Her focus locked directly on Catherine, and in that instant, the air turned ice cold. The silence that followed wasn't just quiet. It was thick, sickening, and charged with a terror no one dared name. Then came the words, sharp, biting, wrapped in polished sarcasm. Camilla threw out stinging, passive-aggressive remarks, circling Catherine like a predator, testing its prey. A simple change to a seating arrangement became the spark she twisted into insult. With a cutting tone, she asked, "One wonders with innuendo when certain traditions became so easily dispensable." Every eye darted toward Catherine, yet she didn't flinch. She stayed poised, her expression calm, her reply steady and rational, while the rest of the room braced for the explosion they feared was coming. Catherine's reply came soft and steady, her tone calm and respectful. "It was a small adjustment made for the comfort of our guests, Camilla," she whispered, gently urging her to focus on their shared duties. But instead of cooling the tension, her measured words seemed to strike a nerve. Camilla's composure cracked instantly. Her voice rose, sarcasm stripped away, revealing anger that had clearly been simmering for years. With sharp venom, she snapped back. Your duty seems to be to constantly place yourself at the center of every photograph, every story." The words hit like thunder. The room's fragile formality shattered in an instant. Staff froze in place, their pens halted mid-note, their eyes locked on the two most powerful women in the royal family. No one dared move, no one even dared breathe. They knew they were witnessing a moment that would go down in palace history. And then, what no one expected, happened. The argument crossed a line. Queen Camilla, consumed by her fury, turned the confrontation physical. As Catherine began to rise from her chair, perhaps to walk away, Camilla shoved her sharply on the shoulder, forcing her back down into her seat. Gasps rippled across the room, the silence broken not by words, but by pure shock at what they had just seen. "You will sit and listen," Camilla snapped, her voice carrying a threat that froze the room in place. A sharp, collective gasp cut through the air, bouncing off the damask-lined walls and filling the chamber with a chilling echo of disbelief. Catherine fell back into her chair, her body stiff, her face locked in stunned astonishment. The weight of the moment pressed down on the room like a storm cloud ready to burst. No more whispers, no more subtle signs. This was open, undeniable, and happening in the very heart of the palace. The staff, sworn to silence and bound by loyalty, sat paralyzed. Some bit their lips so tightly they left pale white marks. Others dropped their eyes to the polished table, unable to face what they had just witnessed. They had pledged their lives to protecting the monarchy's secrets, but this wasn't just another secret. This was a fracture they couldn't unsee, a scandal they couldn't unhear. And in the middle of it all sat Catherine, her pulse hammered in her chest, each breath sharper than the last, but she refused to break. Her eyes held steady, unwavering even as the Queen's fury bore down on her, showing a quiet resilience that defied the chaos erupting around her. Catherine gave no sharp reply. Instead, she let the silence stretch, an eerie quiet that spoke louder than words. Her dignity in that moment became her greatest weapon, her calm presence cutting through the chaos like steel wrapped in silk. Across the table, Camilla trembled with adrenaline and rage, finally turning her back as if even she couldn't face the reality of what she had just unleashed. The room stayed suspended in shock, caught between amazement and the bone-deep realization that nothing about this monarchy would ever be the same again. It felt as if the palace itself trembled. The fault line that had long been hidden had now ruptured wide open, and then came the king. The doors opened, and Charles entered with his usual brisk authority. But instead of calming the air, his presence only deepened the silence. This wasn't orderly, respectful quiet. It was disaster quiet. His sharp eyes scanned the room, trained by years of habit to read it instantly. What he saw made his stomach drop. His top staff sat pale and rigid, too rattled to hide their fear. His wife stood defiantly, her anger still smouldering like a fire barely contained. And Catherine, her composure cracking under shock, her wide eyes betraying the weight of what she had endured. For a split second, Charles didn't need the details. The venom in the air told him everything. As his gaze locked with Catherine's frightened stare, something inside him broke. A lifetime of preparation, decades spent training himself to be the calm, steady ruler, shattered in an instant. When he spoke, it wasn't regal, it wasn't measured. His voice came out jagged, rough, and thunderous. "What happened?" The words crashed through the chamber, shattering the silence even more violently than Camilla's shove. He didn't wait for an answer. His fury filled the space before anyone could even breathe. Charles knew instantly that something terrible had unfolded in his absence, and the realization ignited a fury he couldn't contain. Camilla, still bristling with anger, tried to shield herself with a weak defense. "I was simply making a point that needed to be made," she insisted. But her words only poured fuel on the fire. The king's composure collapsed. His voice, once steady and royal, broke into the howl of a betrayed man. Spinning toward Camilla, he erupted with a roar. "You call this proving something in front of them?" He jabbed a finger at the horrified staff, his fury exploding across the room. His accusations tore into her, questioning her judgment, her discipline, and her respect for the very institution he embodied. But his anger didn't stop there. In a shocking twist, he turned on Catherine, his eyes blazing with both rage and despair, fixed on her trembling figure. His voice dropped to a tense, uneven growl as he demanded, "And you? Why did you let this happen? Why don't you—" He cut himself short, his own words faltering under the weight of their cruelty. Somewhere deep inside, he seemed to know his questions made no sense, that they were arrows fired wildly into the air, desperate to strike something, anything, to relieve the crushing pressure inside him. The staff stood frozen, their heads bowed, their hearts hammering with fear. Trained all their lives to serve discreetly and protect the crown, they now found themselves witnessing the unimaginable, the total collapse of royal authority right before their eyes. But what they witnessed was unavoidable. An eruption that shattered every rule drilled into them. Charles, usually so deliberate about appearances, was shouting. His words indicted everyone in the room for their silence, their weakness, their failure to preserve the palace's fragile order. His fury did not spare himself. His voice cracked as he confessed that he had failed, that discord had taken root in his own home. "Will this be my reign?" he cried, the question hanging like a death sentence. Each outburst eroded his authority further. His gestures grew erratic, his voice swinging from thunderous roars to broken wavers, exposing the torment beneath his crown. For the first time, the staff saw not a sovereign, but a man undone. Generational weight bore down on him, the crushing expectation of perfection, the ghost of his mother's unyielding rule, and the endless demand to project control. This explosion rocked the chamber more violently than Camilla's push had. Catherine remained silent, composed, yet pale. Her stillness only deepened Charles's torment. He envied her restraint as much as he despised it. Camilla, meanwhile, refused to yield. Her defiant gaze locked on him, daring him to break further. Between the mute princess and the unyielding queen, Charles felt the crown slip, not in body, but in spirit. His voice fell at the end of his tirade, but the damage was already carved into the walls. The king's fury had spent itself, and his court had witnessed every fracture. When the meeting finally broke, the silence was almost unbearable. The staff filed out, their usually hushed steps thundering across the polished stone, too quick, too deliberate, like people escaping the gravity of something dreadful. No one dared speak within reach of the Red Room's doors. Only in the hidden arteries of the palace, its service halls and back passages, did sound return. First as soft as silk brushing against stone, then louder, sharper, spreading like fire over dry tinder. Whispers swelled into currents of speculation. The palace was splitting into camps. Many defended the Princess of Wales. In hushed tones, they praised her composure, framing it as proof of loyalty. She had endured both verbal attack and physical threat, yet remained unshaken, they whispered. To them, she was not a victim, but a vision of the monarchy's future. Her silence was read as insight, not fragility. Her restraint, the mark of a stateswoman. One senior aide confided to a colleague. She knew that if she descended into the fray, the crown itself would have been cheapened. But there were others, fewer, quieter, more hesitant, who murmured in Camilla's defense. They argued her eruption was not born of cruelty, but of long-frayed endurance. To them, her sharp words reflected years of struggle, of being measured, doubted, and forced into a mold that never quite fit. They painted her not as a usurper, but as a woman finally tearing free from suffocating expectation. These defenders knew their sympathies were dangerous. They whispered only in guarded corners, careful never to voice them aloud. Yet the loudest and most troubling murmurs in the palace did not belong to Catherine or to Camilla. They belonged to the king. From the most trusted private secretaries to the lowest footmen, staff wrestled with the memory of what they had witnessed, a monarch stripped of command before their eyes. How could the king lose himself so fully? How could fury erupt in front of his own court without thought for image or consequence? They recalled his trembling voice, his eyes clouded with rage, his accusations flung recklessly at wife, daughter-in-law, and servant alike. It was not the sovereign's calm, unshakable authority they saw, but an overwhelmed man, cracking under the crown. Some pitied him. "He's only human," whispered a long-time butler. "The pressure would break anyone." Others, however, feared him. They spoke of an unpredictable temper, a volatile heart that might scorch not only those closest to him, but the fragile institution itself. The late Queen Elizabeth II's stoicism had long been their professional compass. This was its dark inversion. The palace itself seemed to echo the murmurs, the ancient stone walls alive with whispers carried through corridors and antechambers. Rumours bled into every hallway. Servants avoided each other's gaze, not from coldness, but from fear. A glance too long might betray a loyalty, reveal a belief, expose a side. The air thickened with suspicion. The monarchy's great house no longer felt united, but fractured, dangerously split. By night, the whispers grew bolder, unmistakable. Small looks, subtle gestures, coded exchanges hinted at where allegiances had shifted. At the centre stood the crown, still perfect in its glittering form beneath the lights, yet trembling, as though even the gold itself sensed the instability pressing against it. The palace walls had hidden centuries of scandal and grief, but rarely had they carried a secret so perilous, so corrosive, and so impossible to contain. The crown split. King Charles sat shrouded in the afternoon's turmoil, though the Red Room now lay empty. Alone in his father's and grandfather's study, he pressed his hands to his temples. The silence pressed harder than the shouting had. For the first time since ascending the throne, he felt stripped bare. No robes, no crown, only a man hollowed by grief and the sting of lost command. When his top advisors arrived, they did not storm in with accusations. Their presence was far more punishing. They came cloaked in restraint, their authority sharpened by silence. Every look carried judgment, every measured word the weight of centuries. These were the keepers of the institution, loyal not to the man but to the crown. Their charge was to protect the monarchy from all threats, even when the threat was the sovereign himself. "Your Majesty," the eldest began, his tone glacial, "we face a situation of the gravest nature." They did not shout, but their composure stung sharper than Camilla's attack or Charles's own fury. They reminded him of the immutable law. The monarchy survives not on truth, but on perception. Authority rests in the illusion that the crown is unshakable and the figure who wears it infallible. The mirage of stability had shattered the moment Charles raised his voice, venting his fury at family and servants alike. Now, cornered in the study, he tried to defend himself. His words tumbled out hot and frantic. "I was pushed beyond measure," he insisted. "The strain. Any man in my position would have snapped. You didn't hear what happened." His voice surged again, sharp with desperation, before he caught himself too late. The advisors did not flinch. Their stillness was its own judgment. "You are no man," one said, his tone like iron striking cold stone. "You are the king, and a king cannot afford visible fury. Not before servants, not before witnesses who live by whispers." Another added with quiet precision, "One outburst, Your Majesty, can undo years of carefully built image. Rage does not suggest strength. It signals loss, loss of temper, loss of command, loss of the kingdom itself." Their words struck harder than Camilla's shove or Catherine's silence. Family could wound him with love or rivalry, but these were keepers of the crown, unmoved, unforgiving. For the first time, Charles felt the crown's true cruelty. It was not the weight of gold and jewels, but the inhuman demand to remain calm while storms tore through the heart. Now that calm had broken, and with it, the illusion that protected him. Left alone, he replayed the collapse until it consumed him. He saw the terror on his staff's faces, the frozen horror of loyal servants who had been trained to bow and obey. He saw Catherine, her shock tempered by dignity, her silence cutting sharper than words. And he saw Camilla, unyielding, aflame with defiance. Each image returned like a fresh blade, each memory another wound. He wondered whether history would remember him not as a ruler, but as a man who could not master himself. Would he be marked forever, not by policies or modern reforms, but by a single loss of temper. The thought gnawed at him with more cruelty than the encounter itself. For the first time, Charles doubted his fitness for the role he had inherited. Kingship felt less like triumph than confinement, a golden prison with radiant, unbreakable bars. He longed to be fallible, to fail without consequence, to be a man instead of a monument, but he knew the freedom to stumble had vanished the moment the crown touched his head. He was not permitted sentiment. The image he projected was his reign, and now that image was fractured beyond repair. In the silence of the study, he swore he could feel the ground itself quiver beneath him. His advisor's verdict rang in his skull. His power was slipping, not in Parliament or in the press, but within the palace itself. The betrayal was worst at home, where whispers carried more weight than headlines. For the first time, the crown seemed unbearably heavy, as though it no longer belonged to him. William's fury, Catherine's silence. Catherine had left the Red Room with the same elegance she had entered, her steps measured, her shoulders set. To outward eyes, she seemed unshaken, yet within her, the air spun violently. She had no shield but her poise. No one defended her. Still, she refused to be ruled by anger. Instead, she wrapped her humiliation in silence, masking pain behind her impenetrable calm. The untrained eye might have thought she emerged unharmed, but inside, the wound was raw and searing. Her silence, however, was deliberate. Catherine knew better than anyone that in the palace, every glance, breath, and gesture was captured and remembered. To lash out would have dragged her into the same chaos she dreaded. By saying nothing, she chose a higher ground. She believed silence could roar louder than rage, proving strength where wrath would only destroy. But she also knew silence was never neutral within these walls. It was a canvas others would paint with their own meanings. To the staff, her restraint became legend. They whispered admiration. She had endured humiliation in public and still stood firm. To them, she was no victim, but a monarch in waiting, patient, steadfast, tempered by gentleness that did not bend under cruelty. She was their future, and her silence proved she was ready.